Good morning, everyone. Will Witt here with PragerU. Sorry, no Dennis Prager today. We got some younger faces here today to host Dennis Prager's radio show, and I'm here with my co-host,
Amla, who's also a Prager personality. We were planning on doing Dennis Prager impressions, but Dennis gave us away.
The left ruins everything.
Otto, the world's most famous dog.
I had no idea that he was actually going to introduce us with that, so that was really nice.
It was. Dennis is always super nice.
Yeah, even though he didn't totally pronounce your last name right, but that's okay.
They never do.
They never do. It's a hard name to pronounce. Guys, if you don't know who we are, Amla and I want to start out and just give you a little taste about PragerU and where we came from. PragerU, founded by Dennis Prager. We put out digital content all over the web. We're at about 5 billion views, which is a truly amazing accomplishment. Putting out videos that share the values of America, share the values of the Constitution, share the values of morality that Dennis Prager is all about, the wisdom that he shares, and with other personalities such as Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson, myself, and Amla. So we're incredibly honored to work for an organization like that. And Amla, how did you get hooked up with PragerU? That needs to be like a sound button that you can click on the... Exactly. How do you really say it?
You really say my name, Amla Epinobi.
Yeah, the K is silent.
The K is silent. It's a fun little curveball. It's always nice to have Dennis in the ear. You know, I feel like I keep Dennis in my subconscious as just a guide, a spiritual guide.
Well, that's what we were talking about yesterday. We have a show on PragerU. It's a podcast. It goes 2:30 p.m. on PragerU YouTube, Pacific time every day, and we were talking about morality. And we were saying that if you are doing something in your life and you think if Dennis Prager is watching you do that thing and he would be disappointed, then you should stop doing that thing. That was our words of wisdom for people watching. It's good wisdom.
It's a strong metric for success. But I'll tell a little bit about my story. So I'm Amla Epinobi again. That's how you pronounce my name. Dennis, if you're listening, you'll get it right next time. But I was raised... a very strong and angry leftist. I grew up in a household with a single mother of 3 who happens to work for the left. She works at an organization back in Florida as a fundraiser, and they work on different protests. Virtually any campaign that you can think of that the left is working on, my mother is working on right now at this very moment. So I was raised to be a very, very angry leftist, and when I got out of high school, I started working for the left. I was a youth organizer, going around to different middle schools and high schools, finding students who were sort of disillusioned with America, pushing them further down that lane, and then funneling them through the organization as protesters and activists. And I woke up through working for the left. I realized that nothing that I was doing was right. Their ideology completely fell apart right in front of my face, and I became a conservative.
And then you started making TikTok videos,
right.
Instagram videos. How did you amass a following? Why did PragerU... I know the answers to this, but I want the audience to know. How did PragerU find you, and why did they find so much interest in you?
Yeah,
you can be a little vain by saying this.
I'm not gonna be vain, but I spent about a year and a half studying conservatism and sort of working my way back from my leftist views into a more conservative mindset. And you know, this past year and a half has been pretty bad, but at the start of it, I was very, very disillusioned with where this country was going, and I knew that young people needed to hear a conservative voice. So I hopped on TikTok, the worst platform of all platforms.
China.
The CCP platform, and I started to talk about my views and hopefully influence young people. The videos took off, probably because they were surprised to see a young black woman sharing conservative views. Apparently that's a shocking thing to experience today in America, unfortunately, and the videos took off. Somehow people at PragerU got a hold of it. They contacted me and they brought me out to LA, so now here I am.
And so you started with Prager Force as well.
I did, yeah. I started in Prager Force, which is our young person's affiliation, our young person's group. So if you're in high school, college, or a young professional under the age of 35, you can join Prager Force and, you know, meet like-minded conservatives, network, hopefully be on Will and I's show at some point, and maybe even work at PragerU. You never know. Dreams come true.
Maybe one day you could host the Dennis Prager show and have him pronounce your name wrong. It's a really big deal. It's
an honor. Yeah. It's an honor.
So, I love that. That's a great pun. So I'm guessing your mom isn't watching this right now or listening to this.
She's probably not, but she's proud of me. She's proud of what I'm doing. She's just not proud of the team that I'm doing it for.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. Like, there's a difference. My mom, when a little bit about my story, guys. I feel like I've told my story 1,000,000 times, but I want to I'll tell it again.
1,000,001.
Yeah, this is the 1,000,001th time. Is that a word? Million and one time. Essentially, I grew up in Colorado, and I was never conservative. I mean, I was pretty liberal. I was a diehard atheist, and not just an atheist. I mean, I was going around to religious people and telling them how stupid they were for believing in God and having any sort of faith. And it's funny because most people go to college and then they become a liberal. Their parents raise them as a conservative or with good values at least, and then they go to college and they dye their hair blue and become a leftist. The opposite was for me. I was a leftist atheist and went to college and became a conservative. I mean, I was a English major, which was a totally useless degree, and I was in sociology class, and they were talking about white privilege, and they're talking to me about how I'm oppressing people like you, Amla. And
right.
I mean, I don't feel like I'm oppressing you.
I don't feel like it either, luckily.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing. I'm glad you said that, okay? You could have exposed me live on the show right now. But it's wild. And so you go to college, and my mom, I grew up with my mom, and my dad was never around. I had a stepdad and my grandparents, and my grandpa and my brother were kind of like my father figures because my dad was never there. But my mom was really like my main leadership in my life, and she taught me just good values, common sense values, things that Dennis Prager talks about, but my mom had no idea that she was quote-unquote conservative. You know,
right.
She just taught me these values, and I thought I was on the left. This is true for so many people. Like, I was in an Uber ride, this was a couple of years ago, actually, but I'm talking to this lady, and I was in a suit, I look nice, and she says, "Oh, you look nice, like, what do you do?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm like a political commentator, personality." She's like, "Oh my goodness, that's so great that we have young people getting Trump out of office. Thank you."
Right.
And I'm just like, "Yeah, dude. For sure."
Yeah.
And I start talking to this lady more and more, and we're talking about ideas and stuff, and she was against affirmative action. She wanted fathers in the homes, and she was a school teacher, and in her school she wanted to not install these transgender bathrooms in her school. And it was like all of these things that she talked about, she had values just like me. She was conservative, but she hated conservatives. So there's a big war going on right now, an ideological war where people think that they're on the left because that's just what society has told them to. And so that's what happened with me. And so then when I was in college and I figured out that, wow, all my values and views that my mom taught me and that I kind of just knew growing up, I was actually a conservative. And so I dropped out of school after 2 years after I found out about PragerU. When I was in school, I joined Prager Force as well and made a video where I went around asking women what they thought about the wage gap, and I sent it to PragerU. I taught myself how to shoot and edit the video, and they loved it. Somehow I've rewatched that video. It's a horrible video compared to some of my later work.
Somehow you charm them, Will.
Somehow I charmed them with my baby face from 5 years ago. But they flew me out to LA, I did an internship, and then they offered me a job. So I dropped out of school, moved to Los Angeles with nothing, and made it here in this horrible, disgusting city.
Yeah, and now all of you listening to the radio now get the privilege of listening to two conservative college dropouts.
I know, there's a lot of wisdom in this room.
There's a lot of wisdom in self-education. Let me go ahead and put that out there too.
You can find more on YouTube and on PragerU than you can find at a university.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And it's a reality that you have to sort of grapple with when you realize that we've been tricked into going through the university system.
I know. There is so much good out there that people can find, but you go to this school, and this is the same with public schools, too. This isn't just university education. I mean, these are indoctrination centers where they're teaching you to be an obedient person who will listen to authority and just listen to whatever leftist dogma they're pushing. Right?
Oh, that's exactly right. That was my experience. And you get so disillusioned with it so quickly, but then you realize there are people in this room who don't know any better, who are just being brainwashed and pushed through this system, and that's how they're going to end up, an angry leftist who hates America.
I know. I don't like it. If you guys don't know, I don't like it. For our show, that's kind of my catchphrase.
It is.
Because we go through a lot of news and a lot of cultural events, and I don't like it is something that I say a lot because there's a lot of things that I don't like. I have very strong opinions about a lot of the things going on. And so today on the show, Amla and I are going to be going through a lot of the news of the day. We're going to be going over some topics and discussing exactly what's going on. But before that, we're going to have a little bit of a break. And we want to talk real quick just about PragerU and why you guys should support PragerU.
Yeah, you know, we call it PragerU or Prager University because Alan and Dennis really recognized the problems that were happening in American institutions, specifically when it comes to education. And we wanted to give resources that were not only pro-American and pro-conservative values, but were simply truthful. It's just about being honest, which is something that we get so little in America right now. So you guys support us by donating, by listening to the content that we put out. You can go to prageru.com/donate to support our causes so that we can create more educational content for average Americans.
Yes, PragerU completely changed my life. It changed Amala's life. I mean, I wouldn't be here proving these values work and pushing them all over America if it wasn't for PragerU. And there are thousands of young people across America as well who are doing the exact same thing because of PragerU and Prager Force. We'll be back after the break.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
And I know so many people who are resistant to the vaccine. It's just a fact of life. And there are people in all walks of life, white people, black people, Hispanic people, members of the military.
To get this economy back in shape.
So the first thing we do is we actually do exactly think of everything Biden has done and do exactly the opposite. And I'm not kidding, Carl. I mean, we do exactly the opposite of what Biden is doing. We don't need $4 trillion of spending right now. We need to be, after a crisis is over, and COVID is basically over now thanks to Trump and the vaccine, usually after like World War II or after the Cold War, we actually cut spending. We need to be aggressively cutting government spending. By the way, government spending, you know this, Carl, where did this crazy idea come from that government spending stimulates? All the government spending stimulates is government. It doesn't. The only way, let me put it very simply, because this is really important. I know you know this as a businessman. The only way that the government can give you $1,000 is to take $1,000 away from me, right? It's a zero-sum game, and all we're doing is taking money away from producers and giving it to people who don't produce. That's that formula for disaster.
You know what? It's so funny that you mention that. I talk about that often on my show, and one of the things, it's frustrating to hear Biden talk about it, but it's even more, it's scary to me that people believe it, that there's such a lack of understanding when it comes to economics that it completely baffles me. It completely scares me that he could say the things that he says about inflation and just completely get away with it.
Now think about somebody like Joe Biden. What has Joe Biden done in his life? Well, he's never had a job. I mean, all he's done, he's been in government his whole life.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
And the whole point of it was to do comedy from a Christian conservative perspective that wasn't cheesy, that didn't make us the joke. Because
isn't it funny that we always have to start there?
Yeah,
we're doing it. It's really brilliant, but it's not cheesy.
Right.
Like we're making films, but it's not cheesy. It's a TV program, but it's not cheesy.
We do that's cheesy.
And it is an amazing thing. I said it before, but you guys, it's not just not cheesy. It's brilliant, and actually, in the world in which we live today, it's almost the only stuff that's happening at that level. I mean, there's nothing on the
What? Good morning, everybody. This is Will Whip from PragerU, joined by
Amla Epinobi from PragerU.
Ekpanobi.
Ekpunobi, as Dennis would say.
I want to talk about one thing real quick. Take a look at your cell phone bill. If you're with Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile, you're paying too much. I want you to switch to Pure Talk. Pure Talk can save your family over $800 a year. It's 800 big ones. Yes, same great coverage because Pure Talk is on the exact same network as one of the big three, but at a fraction of the price. And switching is as easy as switching out your SIM card. You can keep your phone, keep your number, or get huge discounts on the latest iPhones and Androids. Dennis got the iPhone 12, and he loves it. Plus, right now, get unlimited talk, unlimited text, and 6 gigs of data for just $30 a month. And if you go over on data, they don't charge you for it. There's a reason Pure Talk is the highest rated wireless company by Consumer Affairs, why they're the preferred wireless partner of AMAC. From your cell phone, dial pound 250 and say Dennis Prager and save an additional 50% off your first month. That's pound 250, say Dennis Prager.
Wow, Will, if you ever get fired from PragerU, you have an amazing career set out for you in advertising.
No, I have a face for radio, especially with this mustache right now. Anyone who's watching can see it. I'm sorry that you listeners don't get to see my facial hair, but it's quite extraordinary.
Speaking of Pure Talk, we saw the most pure video the other day, and it's some audio that I want to share with all of you that are listening right now. It is audio from an Olympic athlete, an Olympic wrestler by the name of Tamira Mensah-Stock, talking about representing her country. She won a medal in this year's Olympics, and she got to speak about what it's like to represent her country. Let's give that a listen.
Coaches put me through pays off, and every single time it does, and I get better and better. And it's so weird that there is no cap to the limit that I can do, and I'm excited to see what I have next.
Last question for you. That American flag around your shoulders looks pretty good. How does that feel to represent your country like this?
It feels amazing. I love representing the U.S. I freaking love living there. I love it, and I'm so happy I get to represent USA. Love it.
Well said. Congratulations. Enjoy that gold, and we'll see you out there on the podium, okay?
Thank you. I'll try not to cry, but no problem.
Oh, it's just so wholesome and beautiful.
Now, why is this important? I think this is important because this video has gone completely viral. Conservatives and freedom lovers and people who love this country have been sharing this video all over Twitter. That's where we got it. It's all over Instagram, Facebook. I mean, this video is everywhere. Pretty much everyone who loves freedom in America has seen this video. But people are hungry for these types of videos. You understand? It's crazy to me that a video like this, which 10 years ago or 12 years ago, whatever, at the Olympics 12 years ago or 16 years ago, this wouldn't have been a political thing.
No, not at all.
What I mean?
Not at all. It would have never went viral. This would have been what every single USA Olympic athlete would have been saying.
Exactly. So why is it now that being proud of your country, loving, supporting it, is now a political issue? This is, if you guys don't believe that the left has just gotten more and more radical in the last 10 years or so, then I think you are very naive, because what is happening is that the left continues to switch their goalposts to be even further and further to the left. It is now the norm to disappoint and not like this country and hate on this country when you are an athlete for the Olympics, and no longer the norm to support it.
Yes, and all the while the left is telling us, oh, we do this because we truly love America. If you truly loved America, a video like this would not be going viral. This would be the standard. And we have other Olympic athletes that you want to juxtapose this with. Look at Gwen Berry, who's a hammer thrower, who got up and decided to do a protest during the national anthem during the Olympics. It's just ridiculous.
You got the same thing with Megan Rapinoe, and they lost to Canada. Canada. How do we lose to Canada? They have snow covering their soccer fields for half of the year, maybe even more, and we lost to them. I hate to say this, but I am happy that the USA lost. And I'm happy that Megan Rapinoe lost. I do not, and I'm someone who loves Olympic sports, okay? I wish they would put badminton and disc golf in the Olympics, but other than that, I love Olympic sports. And it's sad that I haven't watched almost a single minute of the Olympics. And it's terrible because I love the Olympics, but I can't watch it when there's the American-hating U.S. athletes that ruin the experience for me. And that's why the ratings are so down, because people are sick and tired of hearing people who are from this country or who are supposed to be supporting this country hating on it in all aspects. If you are representing the U.S., you are going there to show the rest of the world that we are the best. So when you're going there and telling people that America is the worst, how do you think that makes us look on the world stage? How do you think Russia or China are looking at us? And now China, I mean, they have more medals than us right now in the Olympics. So, yeah, it's a terrible circumstance.
The Olympics was a... It's just so amazing. Every time I hear that video, I smile. The Olympics was a mixed bag, and it should not have been a mixed bag. Now, I want to give, a big applaud for Tamira Mensah-Stock. I also want to give a big applaud for Sydney McLaughlin, who was a runner who said, all grace and all power to God in her winning the Olympics. These are the shining lights of the Olympics this year. These are the shining lights of the USA. It is not the people like Gwen Berry. It is not the people like Raven Saunders who use these moments to protest their country. If anything, these women, particularly both Gwen Berry and Raven Saunders are black women. They should be a testament to how progressive and how free America truly is, that you are a black woman who was able to work hard at your sport, make it to the Olympic podium, and put that medal around your neck. Yet they use this opportunity, which could be a shining light for every single young black American, to protest this nation and to tell people that there are barriers set in front of them.
I know, isn't that wild? You have the girl Tamira, the wrestler, who is from that sound clip, the one who's the amazing one. She's a black woman. She's talking about how amazing it is to live in America, how much she loves this country. And then you have the other black women who are saying, no, it's so horrible, I'm so oppressed. And it's like all of them are in the exact same place. They're all in the Olympics, but some of them are oppressed and then one of them loves this country. It makes no sense. They live in the best country on earth, and they should appreciate it for that. That because the reason why they are at the Olympics, the reason why they had those opportunities is because they live in America. It's because they live in America and had those opportunities afforded to them to be able to do that.
And I wish that when these Olympians go and protest, somebody would put a mic right in their face and say, give me an example of systemic oppression in America. Tell me the racism that you are experiencing while standing here on this podium with a gold medal around your neck. They won't be able to answer.
Should have been me. I should have been at the Olympics with my PragerU mic asking these people questions.
Right.
Ask them who the 16th president was. I doubt they know that too.
Yeah.
People know nothing about history and then want to tell you how terrible America is. They don't know how this country was founded. They don't know the values that it was founded on. If people don't know the values that America was founded on, then of course when the mainstream media and the universities in Hollywood tell you that it's a terrible place, they're going to agree with you because they don't know what this country is actually made for, what it was all about, why the people who founded this country made it the way that they did. If you don't know those values or don't appreciate those values, then you are going to hate it. And this is why you have things like CRT and the 1619 Project that are coming in to try and destroy those values.
And PragerU is trying to share those values. So go to PragerU.com. Donate to us, please. Support the cause so we can give content to Americans that hopefully changes their minds on how they feel about this country at large, because it is something that is desperately needed right now. I can't tell you the young people that I've met who are so disillusioned with America, and we're going to talk about that more when we come back from this break.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
This insane reversal. We've been told by Biden, by Fauci, if you're vaccinated, you don't need a mask. Now you do, perhaps for the rest of eternity. That this decision is based apparently on an unpublished, unpeer-reviewed publication from India about a vaccine that you can't even get here in America.
Yeah, and it's actually even better than that because they didn't even understand the study, because in the CDC slide deck, they refer to it as a study in healthcare professionals when in fact it was a study in simulated persons in a laboratory. It was not a study in actual human beings.
It was a simulation.
Yes, it was a simulation. It was a lab simulation in India using vaccines that are not used in the United States and that failed peer review. So it had already been rejected for publication at the time that they relied on it in this slide deck. And now they are sort of, scrambling for other justifications for the policy, having already rolled it out. And just an hour or two ago, they rushed out a new study out of Provincetown, Massachusetts, that I suppose is now the new justification for it, the India study having been discredited.
Do you have, because you've got to follow this guy at Kerpen, Kerpen on Twitter. You are one of the most ardent, conscientious, and just trenchant followers of the truth on this issue.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Here at Salem Media Group, we're delighted to welcome you back to your old habits and haunts. Nice to see you at our restaurants. We've been waiting a long time for you to return. Nice to see you at the salon, the post office, the flower shop. Nice to see you back in the office. Nice to see all those cars on the freeway again.
Yay! Hello, Bedford Falls!
For over a year, America has been fighting to get back to normal. This Salem radio station has been fighting right alongside you. Now we're back. You're back. It feels so good to to be back. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
And I know so many people who are resistant to the vaccine. It's just a fact of life. And there are people in all walks of life, white people, black people, Hispanic people, members of the military, the healthcare profession. You know how many nurses, and dare I say doctors, physician's assistants, unwilling to get the vaccine? It's more than a little. So what do we do with them? What do we do with those people? In fact, that's been one of the most unreported stories of the whole crisis of this pandemic. Healthcare workers who are unvaccinated.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Hi, welcome. Good morning, everybody. I'm sure you're thinking, wow, this is the most feminine Dennis Prager I have ever heard in my life. And guess what? I have good news. I'm not Dennis Prager.
Is that good news?
I guess it's not good news. I wish I was Dennis Prager. I am Amla. I'm PragerU's newest personality, the young buck, the 21-year-old here. And I'm co-hosting with PragerU's oldest personality, the old 24-year-old.
That makes me feel so great. I used to be 21. When I started at PragerU, I was 20, I think. I couldn't legally drink. And now I'm 24 years old, and I feel my bones are shattering every time I step.
Wow, your age is showing?
My age is definitely showing, especially when you show up. You talk faster than me now.
I try. It's just a competition at this point.
So we have a story today that it makes my blood boil. And if you guys know me and you watch my show or follow me on Instagram, many things make my blood boil, but this one is definitely very dramatic in my opinion, because it is something that is taking away freedoms from Americans. But the horrible part for me is that there are so many Americans who are totally fine with their freedoms being taken away, and they do not care. So this news story is New York City will require vaccines for entry to restaurants, gyms, concerts, things like that. So they are now having a quote-unquote vaccine passport for lots of different places that you go to.
Yeah, and we talk about this a lot on our daily show. But what happened with this whole lockdown and COVID-19 is that the government wanted to test how controllable and how easily it was to condition the American people. We proved that with the lockdown because we bent over and we allowed the government to lock us down, to lock down our economy, to tell our kids that they couldn't go to school, to tell us that we couldn't go to work. And now that that lockdown has been quote-unquote lifted, we're going to enter a new series of regulations and mandates where they test how far can we really push this? How much do Americans really value freedom? How much do they value liberty? And I guess the answer right now is not very much, because we have cities like New York City, and now we have LA, who is thinking about doing the exact same, placing limitations on our freedom, and people are doing nothing about it.
Let's look at New York City, for example, because they're the ones who are putting in this vaccine mandate. You know what their 7-day average for COVID deaths is? It is 6 people. People think ridiculous. That, like, I did this video. I went out on the street and I asked people how many people have died from COVID, how many people have gotten sick from COVID. They're thinking, oh, like hundreds of thousands in Los Angeles, like 100,000 people under the age of 17 have died. I mean, and it's like not even close to those kinds of numbers. But again, it is the mainstream media tricking people into giving up their freedoms by telling them that it's for the greater good. People don't trust anyone who says that something is for the greater good. People who say that something is for the greater good are the people who you know have some sort of agenda, okay? As individuals, we should be looking to protect our individual liberties, our individual rights, our rights that are given to us by God that the founders knew. No government bureaucrat or some swamp monster living in D.C. has the right to take those away from you. He doesn't have the right to take them away from you because he is not the one, or she is not the one who gave it to you. These rights are endowed on you by our Creator, and you should fight for them.
Yeah, but COVID-19 was the perfect recipe for tricking people into being subverted and subjugated by their government, because now if you don't comply, if you don't listen to these mandates and these regulations, you are harming people. In fact, you're killing people.
You're going to kill all the grandmas.
Right, you're going to kill all the grandmas, and nobody's safe because you won't wear your mask and you won't get this mandated vaccine. And now the people who comply, the people who subvert themselves to the U.S. government get to say, well, I'm virtuous and I did the right thing, and all you conservatives and all you people who value freedom and liberty, what even is that? You guys are the ones who are killing other people.
I got vaxxed 10 times. I wear 24 masks, and I'm finally able to participate in society. Thank you, Daddy Government. I appreciate you.
And my kid does not go to school without at least 16 masks on.
No, only 16?
Only 16.
Wow, is your kid a racist? I didn't know. He must be if it's only 16 masks.
I bought him Anti-Racist Baby, the children's book, so my baby is perfectly fine.
All right, fine. Listen, you get a pass this time. But it's absolutely wild that people are able to give up their freedoms. I went to a march a couple of years ago. It was the March for Our Lives, and this was a Second Amendment march, and basically anti-Second Amendment. And the Second Amendment is such an important thing for Americans. I mean, Americans should realize the importance of the Second Amendment way more than so many other countries around the world. But I go there, and there's literally people who took the Second Amendment, they printed it out or wrote it onto a sign, and then put a big red X on it saying that we want our right for the Second Amendment to be taken away. We want someone to take it away. And again, this is because people don't understand freedom and they don't understand what these rights mean. You need to fight for these things. When you see people trying to take away your rights, you need to fight and you need to get the information out there. And that is why at PragerU, we are so focused on getting the true, honest, right information out there for people. So if you support us and what we're doing, make sure you go to PragerU.com, donate today, and make sure that next young people are seeing what we're putting out. I forgot to tell people to call in.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to
Dang it. Sorry.
The what?
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Rovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick at AmFed Coin and Bullion to find out more. I've been friends with Nick for years, and he's my go-to guy when it comes to coins and bullion. I trust him. He is a good and very knowledgeable man. Call Nick at 800-221-7694, 800-221-7694, AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com. Not one mistake.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
Well, according to the CDC's own documents, right here, Barnstable, or is it Barnstable? Whatever. County, Massachusetts. Outbreak. In all bold. No difference in mean CT values in unvaccinated and vaccinated cases. In fact, the vaccinated cases were 0.4% higher. That's the CDC's own data. That vaccinated Americans in Massachusetts, I'm just reading from the document, in Barnstable County, that the median among vaccinated was N equals 80. I'm not sure what that value represents, but 21.9. Unvaccinated, N equals 65, 21.5. I'm guessing that's how many people they were testing. I need to go look at what the values represent. It says here that risk of infection, reinfection with the Delta variant may be higher compared to the Alpha variant, but only if prior infection is 180 days earlier. It says this, that the Delta variant may cause more severe disease than the Alpha or the ancestral strains. So they're already going to now mandate indoor mask mandates. And in fact, certain sources that cover the White House very well, including Jack Posobiec, who has been wrong about almost nothing with his sources, say that lockdowns are coming to blue states in the next couple weeks.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
What does line 2 say?
Democrats have doubled down. People may not want to get arrested in schools with their embrace of critical race theory. School boards and teachers unions have rushed to
All right. Good morning, my friends, or to some of you, I should say, good afternoon. I'm really trying to practice my radio intro voice, making sure that I get it right. So right now we are going to take some calls. I love taking calls. I know, Amla...
It's a mixed bag. I'm a little nervous about it. Also, we are your hosts, Will Witt and Amla Benobi from PragerU, but I get nervous with calls because I don't know what people are going to say.
That's what makes it kind of fun.
Yeah.
You know, that like someone could call in with something that we don't really ever talk about, but then also people call in with crazy stuff. I used to do this on PragerU for our live videos. I would have people call in and yeah, you'll get some crazy people. But you also get some really nice people, because it's one thing to see that PragerU has 5 billion views. Oh, 5 billion views, that's a ton of views. How do you quantify 5 billion views? But when you have someone call in and say, you know, I've been watching your videos, Will, or Amla, or Dennis, and it completely changed my life and turned me around. Yeah, that's only one person, but those types of stories are so impactful to me, and they make it so that I want to continue to do what I do.
Right.
It's hard to know that you're living out a great purpose when you're just looking at views, but when you hear individual stories from people like Amla and everything, it's truly amazing. So let's hit line 2. Sean.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, hello, Anthony. What's going on, man?
Thanks for taking my call. I'm very happy to hear young people with the positions that you're taking. It gives me some optimism for the future, which I didn't really have because I'm an older guy. But I'm glad to hear the way you two are, and I'm hoping that can spread.
Thank you, Anthony.
So what I wanted to share was there are a lot of people that want to refuse the mask mandates. They want to refuse the closures, etc. But the problem is, and I've had this happen to me personally several times, you tell the store or the establishment, no thanks, I don't want a mask. As polite as that may be, they threaten to call the police, and they do call the police. The police come, and then the police threaten to either take you into the custody or throw you out of the establishment unless you mask up. So a lot of people don't want to go through that kind of confrontation. Right. I don't care. I don't mind. I do it a lot. Most of the times, it backs the people down. In some cases, they do call the police, and it's a little frustrating because, in case anybody doesn't know out there, Chicago is having a little problem with crime, but it seems that when the police are called, they're pretty quick to address an old guy that doesn't want to put a mask on in the store.
Yeah,
right.
Cool.
So,
thank you for your call, Anthony.
Yeah.
Amla, I think, is going to take that one.
Yeah, I think when we talk about these mandates and these regulations, There are so many different answers we get to this. A lot of people don't want to be canceled by their community. They don't want to be called out at PTA meetings. They don't want people in general being rude to them or being a social pariah and feeling the repercussions of going against the grain and not following these regulations. And to those people, I know being arrested, of course, is a very extreme case. I don't wish that upon anybody. But you have to think about your risk and your benefit. Right now, you risk being arrested. You risk being a social pariah. You risk being bullied by your community and being outcasted. But the real thing that you're risking by not standing up and by not going against these regulations and these mandates is losing an America that is worth living in, losing a government that actually serves its people rather than telling people what to do. So you have to weigh those concerns and then say, you know what, right now we are in a time where we need people to stand up. And if I'm not that person, nobody will be that person. So I know there's a lot of fear around going against the grain, but it's something you just have to do in these times.
So it's just like, think about years ago and talking about these types of things. No one would have thought this would ever happen. And you had all these people who, as Amla likes to call squishy, who are like, oh, mask mandates, it'll never happen. And now it's like, well, okay, we'll do mask mandates, that's fine. Right. Okay, COVID mandatory vaccines. Oh, okay, that's fine, but only if it's in restaurants. And it's like, it will keep progressing until someone actually says something. When I'll go into the grocery store, or we all went to Chipotle the other day to go and get a burrito, and we went in and they said, oh, you have to wear a mask. And what do? We left. We left. Mm-hmm. If they are enforcing the rules that are put in place, LA has mask mandates, if you guys didn't know. If they're enforcing those rules, I'm going to leave. I mean, I can't go anywhere now without some sort of employee or someone there yelling at me and telling me that I have to put a mask on, and I'll just leave, and I'll order my food or order my groceries or something like that. I understand that not everyone has the privilege to be able to do something like that. So, but it is incredibly important that we fight back now, because personally, I think America is getting close to a breaking point. I mean, we are obviously in a civil war of ideas that we hope doesn't get violent whatsoever, but I feel like we are at a breaking point when it comes to these ideas, and we are seeing a huge shift. Thank you for your call, Anthony. Let's take Olivia from LA. Calls.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Olivia.
How are you?
Well, how are you?
How's it going? Good. Thanks so much for taking my call. I have a question on dating advice. I'm wondering, so, back when my parents were growing up, back when my grandparents were growing up, politics wasn't something that was make or break. People that were on opposite aisles could date each other and get married and have awesome relationships and lifelong marriages. Now it kind of seems like that's becoming impossible. I'm wondering what your guys' opinions are on that, and if it's okay to draw a hard line that you're not going to date someone that's just not conservative anymore because everything is so polarizing.
Thank you for the call, Olivia. Appreciate it. Amla and I might disagree on this, but maybe we're on the same page.
Let's find out.
I am a no. I don't think that people with such diametric values should be dating each other. I just don't think that it's going to work. Listen, you can have different politics. Maybe your husband or your boyfriend wants some more taxes, or maybe wants some more environmental regulations or something, and you guys can get along with that, okay? That's not the end of the world. But if you guys have completely different values, like let's say you're pro-life and then your boyfriend is pro-choice, that you should bring this up the first date. Right. People are so against bringing up religion and politics the first date. I am of the fact that that's exactly what we should do. Like the first question, walk into the date, shake her hand or give her a hug and say, what's your politics? And then see what they say. If they're strong about it, they're brave people, then that's someone you could stay with. If they're not, I don't know.
I agree with you, and I think Dennis would say the same. He says, when you go on first dates, you should get into the deep questions. And I completely agree. Get that stuff out of the way. Dennis has a lot of sage words of advice, and you can listen to them at PragerU. You can donate to us to hear more from Dennis, and we will talk about that more when we get back from this break.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
this insane reversal. We've been told by Biden, by Fauci, if you're vaccinated, you don't need a mask. Now you do, perhaps for the rest of eternity. That this decision is based apparently on an unpublished, unpeer-reviewed publication from India about a vaccine that you can't even get here in America.
Yeah, and it's actually even better than that because they didn't even understand the study, because in the CDC slide deck, they refer to it as a study in healthcare professionals when in fact it was a study in simulated persons in a laboratory. It was not a study in actual human beings.
It was a simulation.
Yes, it was a simulation. It was a lab simulation in India using vaccines that are not used in the United States and that failed peer review. So it had already been rejected for publication at the time that they relied on it in this slide deck. And now they are sort of, scrambling for other justifications for the policy, having already rolled it out. And just an hour or two ago, they rushed out a new study out of Provincetown, Massachusetts, that I suppose is now the new justification for it, the India study having been discredited.
Do you have, because you've got to follow this guy at Kerpen, Kerpen on Twitter. You are one of the most ardent, conscientious, and just trenchant followers of the truth on this issue.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Here at Salem Media Group, we're delighted to welcome you back to your old habits and haunts. Nice to see you at our restaurants. We've been waiting a long time for you to return. Nice to see you at the salon, the post office, the flower shop. Nice to see you back in the office. Nice to see all those cars on the freeway again.
Yay! Hello, Bedford Falls!
For over a year, America has been fighting to get back to normal. This Salem radio station has been fighting right alongside you. Now we're back. You're back. It feels so good to be back.
Welcome back to the real.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
And I know so many people who are resistant to the vaccine. It's just a fact of life. And there are people in all walks of life, white people, black people, Hispanic people, members of the military, the healthcare profession. You know how many nurses, and dare I say doctors, physician's assistants, unwilling to get the vaccine?
And we're back. In our last segment, we took some calls. We talked about standing up even though there will be repercussions, and we talked about dating people who support your values. Some sage words of advice from a 21-year-old and a 24-year-old.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, I've been on a lot of dates, okay? And I know these things. No time to waste.
I haven't, but I still know these things. Now, we're going to talk about something that's really important, and that's education. We're going to give our book recommendations. Now, the number one book that I recommend to people, especially when they're getting into politics, is a book called Discrimination and Disparities by the great and wonderful Thomas Sowell. He talks about how different factors come into play when we talk about discrimination, and how this nation, America, is not truly a nation of white supremacy and racism, but your success is gauged upon other factors. And Will and I spoke earlier about our upbringing. Will and I both had a lack of fatherhood in the home. And that is something that is far more important as a prerequisite to success than our skin color. So even though Will is a white man and I am a black female,
don't assume.
We lead very, very similar lives, and it's because the prerequisites of having a two-parent household, of having a proper education, of even being read to as a child is so much more important than your skin color or your gender and where you go in life. So that is my book recommendation of the day.
Thank you. Mine's going to be The Hungry, Hungry Caterpillar. It's an amazing read for everyone out there. No, the reason why we wanted to do this segment, we were planning the show yesterday, and we were talking about books, and it's because we get asked it so much, and again, I was an English major, and great literature and books and great authors are how we learn values in a lot of ways. So the book that I recommend is one some of you might have read. It's The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. And this is a book that I read when I was in college and kind of becoming more conservative. And when I was in college, I screwed a lot of things up, okay? I was failing my classes. I was not paying attention to school. I wasn't really doing anything of any substance. But I loved to read, so I would skip school and then read and then party. That was basically what I did. But I read The Picture of Dorian Gray at that time, and if you guys don't know the book, it's essentially a very handsome man has a portrait painted of him, and Dorian, and he wants to stay young. And so he basically makes a deal with the devil, and his soul stays the same age, but the painting grows wicked and old. Anyway, so I read this book when I was in college, and it makes you realize that the material things and the things you do for vanity do not matter as much as the things that really impact your values and your soul, and these things will destroy you and eat you alive. And so it was a total life-changing book for me. I recommend every young man to read it. And if you don't know about other books that are also great, you can go to PragerU.com, because we have our book club with Michael Knowles, along with tons of other good content to give you guys just amazing information, things that you can share with your kids or your friends or your co-workers or your dog, whoever it is. Everyone wants to listen to PragerU and PragerU videos because it is life-changing, truly.
And you can donate to us and support that cause. We can keep more book club episodes coming out. We'll be back in the next hour.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka. We have vaccine mandates for federal workers. Nancy Pelosi says masks are back. You're going to be arrested if you don't wear them in Congress. When is this going to end, Phil?
You know, it's I don't know when it's going to end. We've got the masks are mandatory again in Washington, D.C. As of 5 a.m. Tomorrow morning, which is very interesting because it's been 13 days since the District of Columbia last reported a death with COVID. We've had 11 homicides in the last 13 days, but 0 deaths with COVID. And,
maybe they should ban homicides, Phil.
Yeah, right. Well, or at least maybe have a little bit more vigorous enforcement of the existing laws against them.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Rovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick at AmFed Coin and Bullion to find out more. I've been friends with Nick for years, and he's my go-to guy when it comes to coins and bullion. I trust him. He is a good and very knowledgeable man. Call Nick at 800-221-7694, 800-221-7694, AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com. Not one mistake.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
Well, according to the CDC's own documents, right here, Barnstable, or is it Barnstable? Whatever. County, Massachusetts. Outbreak. In all bold. No difference in mean CT values in unvaccinated and vaccinated cases. In fact, the vaccinated cases were 0.4% higher. That's the CDC's own data. That vaccinated Americans in Massachusetts, I'm just reading from the document, in Barnstable County, that the median among vaccinated was N equals 80. I'm not sure what that value represents, but 21.9. Unvaccinated N equals 65, 21.5. I'm guessing that's how many people they were testing. I need to go look at what the values represent. It says here that risk of infection, reinfection with the Delta variant may be higher compared to the Alpha variant, but only if prior infection is 180 days earlier. It says this, that the Delta variant may cause more severe disease than the Alpha or the ancestral strains. So they're already going to now mandate indoor mask mandates. And in fact, certain sources that cover the White House very well, including Jack Posobiec, who has been wrong about almost nothing with his sources, say that lockdowns are coming to blue states in the next couple weeks.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
I'm Ed Morrissey of HotAir.com for Town Hall. Democrats have doubled down on radical indoctrination in schools with their embrace of critical race theory. School boards and teachers unions have rushed to implement CRT into their curricula, in some cases while avoiding parental notification. Even as these education leaders refuse to reopen schools to children, they now plan to use their near monopoly on education to push this highly controversial ideology. It's already begun to backfire. Parents have begun demanding answers from school boards and campaigned to unseat their members. Politico reports that even Democratic voters are repelled by these plans, and that the radical efforts have fired up independent and conservative voters. The combination of closures and radical agendas have handed Republicans their best opening in decades. With parents under attack by the education establishment, now is the time to demand comprehensive school choice. The choice between liberty and bureaucratic domination over children is now crystal clear in all demographics and areas. The GOP needs to wake up to this golden opportunity. I'm Ed Morrissey.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
And then suddenly people wake up. I never thought it would get this bad this quickly, but it seems that it has taken the madness. Most Americans, if they can finally focus, they just look up and they say, wait a minute. You're telling me the people burning down buildings aren't doing anything wrong. They're peaceful protesters. In other words, your average
Every time. I love that so much. Good morning, everyone. Will Witt here from Prager University, joined today
with Amla Epinobi.
Really The best. Really glad to be here. If you guys don't know who we are, don't know what PragerU is, PragerU, digital media company founded by Dennis Prager, who we put out 5-minute videos, all sorts of different content to educate the next generation on American values, conservative values, and morality in general. We also have the producer of Will and Amla Live here, Taylor Trandall. You want to say what up?
You got my last name right. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah. Wait, is your mic? We're good? Say hello again, Taylor.
Hello, and thank you for pronouncing my last name correctly.
Yeah. Taylor Crandall.
The running joke on our show is that they get my first name wrong because I'm always called Tyler or Travis or some other white guy
moniker
name that starts with T.
Yeah, well, we wanted to bring Taylor on here today because, well, we can let you start, Taylor. Basically, what we want to do now is give the best piece of advice that Dennis Prager has ever given us and why that impacts our life.
Sure. Well, so in a yet unreleased PragerU new social media video, Amla actually sat down with Dennis and showed him a bunch of TikToks, which was hilarious to watch, just introducing him to that platform. And in the course of watching some of those, I mean, there's a lot of like mindless entertainment on TikToks, girls shaking their butt, all this kind of stuff. And that's not that that's what we showed him. But anyway, as we were going through some of these just viral videos, funny things, Dennis had a really interesting piece of wisdom. He said, the social media and all this like short form entertaining content is it's like junk food for your brain. And if all you ever do, you can spend hours and hours just worrying about the next Netflix video, the next post on social media. This is especially relevant for young people. Great advice for young people is you can't live off of junk food. If all you eat is Twinkies, you will get sick and not be a healthy person. And I think it's so important to invest in your own growth and development as a young person and have a value for that. And use resources like PragerU, 5-minute videos, tune into Will and Amla Live, listen to the Dennis Prager Show. And people listening today, you are adding value to yourself. This isn't mindless entertainment. It is adding value to yourself, growing your perspective. And I think that's far too undervalued in this generation.
Oh, it's so true. Dennis is so good with advice and speaking to people. When you meet Dennis and he sits down and talks with you, you are the only person in the room. And he is sharing just with you and he wants to know your story. He asks everybody, are you married? Are you dating?
That's the first thing.
That's the first thing. Whenever we have new staff going to meet Dennis, we always prep them by saying he's going to ask you if you're dating somebody and he's going to ask you if you're married. And if you're not, he will try to hook you up with somebody. But when I met Dennis, it was really, really special. I got to come on the radio show, and he was talking to me as sort of a mentor because Will and I are entering this political realm as commentators and speakers, and that's not something that really everybody gets to do, especially at an age as young as we are. I'm 21, Will's 24, and there's a lot that comes with that. There's a lot of weight that comes with it. There's a lot of, some might say, burden that comes with it. Of course, we enjoy doing what we do, but there's just so many different factors we have to think of. And Dennis told me that the most important thing you can keep through the duration of your career in politics is humility and being humble. And he had an interesting take on that. He said, really, being humble and having humility is something that is selfish. You do it because you don't want to lose the people in your life that you love. You don't want to lose your friends. And when you let your success and your career get to your head, that's exactly what happens to you. So stay humble and talk to every person as if they're the only person in the room. That's my Dennis advice.
Before I get into my advice, guys, remember you can call 1-8-PRAGER-776. That's 1-8-PRAGER-776 if you would like to call into this show where Amla and I are going to be giving you probably the best advice in the world and answering your guys' questions or your commentary. So if you want to be on this show, call 1-8-PRAGER-776. Now, the best advice that I have ever received from Dennis, I was on a plane with him. Him and I just did an event together going to, I think it was in San Diego. We did this event together. And I had a speech the next day. I think I was flying out to Michigan right afterwards, or maybe it was Texas, I don't remember. Flying out, and I said, Dennis, I'm preparing for the speech tomorrow. You got anything that you want to tell me? And he said, I'm sure the things you say are going to be great. You obviously are a very smart guy. I said, thank you, Dennis. I know. And totally disregarding Amla's advice. No, and I come on, and he says, the most important thing I can tell you is that you need to treat every single speech like it's the most important speech of your life. And that was something that was huge for me because I've gone and spoken, hundreds of times. I've been to 45 out of 50 states now, spoken in almost all of them. And you go to some events and there's 15 people there. And you go to some events, and I've spoken in front of 10,000 people at rallies and conferences. But treating every single one like it's the most important speech of your life is so important. This isn't just for me going out and giving speeches. This is for me making a podcast. This is for me making a video. This is for me talking to someone on the street. That whatever I'm doing, make it the most important time that I am doing that, because you don't know who you're going to impact. When I was getting started in all this, and I knew nothing about conservative politics, or really politics in general, when I thought that I was on the left back in college, it took one girl to come up to me. She was in my political science class, and I was just learning about stuff, and she had a Trump pin on her backpack. And she started talking to me. She didn't really even know me. Maybe she just thought I was cute or something. I don't know. I didn't have a mustache back then.
Maybe.
But but she starts talking to me, and she's like, who are you voting for, all that. I'm like, oh, I'm not really sure yet. And she's like, oh, I'm voting for Trump. And I'm like, oh, cool, why? And then we got talking, and it's like one girl came up to me and had a conversation with me that totally changed my life, which propelled me to go look things up about morality and conservative politics and culture and all of this, and realize that, wow, the world is in disarray and I want to do something to help it. It took one person. I'm not saying that every single person that you go and talk to is going to be the next Will Witt or Amla or Dennis Prager, whatever it might be, but you can change that person's life for the better. So when you're talking to people, this goes back to the advice that he told me, this is the most, you having a conversation with someone about politics, imagine that that is the most important conversation about politics or culture or morality in your life. Right. Imagine this person will someday be the next president of the United States because of what you tell them. That is how important this culture war is, that you are influencing people to be great. Not that you want to own them, not that you want to own the libs or defeat them in some wise, crazy debate and get a Ben Shapiro clip. That's not why we're doing it. These are normal people, and we are doing this so that we can change their minds to treat every single conversation like it's the most important of your life.
Right. There's something to be said for treating every action that you do as if it's the most important thing you've ever done. It adds so much value to your life. And when you leave this world, do you want to think, oh, well, I wasted my time, specifically with young people, I wasted my time on TikTok, I wasted my time on Netflix. No, you can say, I went out, I had conversations, I treated everybody in my life as if they were the most important person in the room, and I treated every speech and every career move, every job, every piece of literature that I read as if it was the most important thing that I've ever done. And it gives you just this sense of wellness, it makes you a well-rounded person, and it makes life so much more enjoyable.
It does. I mean, I had breakfast this morning. I made it the most important meal I've ever had. And that wasn't just because I was hosting the Dennis Prager show today, but it was a very important cheese bagel. But it truly is such an amazing thing. And one thing that I've talked to Dennis about is liberation and fear through God, which was also an incredibly important thing. That, you know, when the female Israelites by the Nile in Egypt, the Pharaoh came and said, you know, if there's a male born among you, throw them into the Nile. And the women said, we fear God. I don't remember exactly the Hebrew phrasing behind it, but they said, we fear God. And that's truly a liberating thing. This is something that Dennis was talking about. It's like, when you start fearing God more than you start fearing other people, you are going to have an amazing, true, liberating life, because that is true liberation.
Dennis is such a wise man.
He's so wise.
There's no greater person to be hosting this radio show. Hopefully, we're keeping it well in his stead.
Well, I mean, all we're doing is complimenting him. Maybe we could insult him a little bit too, so that we can.
Dennis's voice is too low.
It's too deep. You know, Otto isn't even that great of a dog. I'm gonna be
Otto
honest.
is a very lazy dog.
Yeah, exactly. You should meet my dog. My dog right now, just for everyone listening, I have a 100-pound lab mastiff. And he's got fleas, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, well.
Yeah, it's terrible. I got to get him some Frontline Plus.
Otto would never.
Otto would never. I don't know if Dennis has any advice for helping fleas, but if you do, Dennis, please call in. The number is 1-8-PRAGER-776. And if any of you guys, you know, maybe dog advice, or you just want advice on the world in general, call in 1-8-PRAGER-776.
And we should say a happy belated birthday to Dennis Prager, because he deserves it. What a paragon. What a man.
21 years old. I remember when I turned 21. What an amazing guy.
All the wisdom that he has for such a young age.
Truly. And Dennis, but seriously, for Dennis to do all of the amazing things that he did, I mean, he wrote his first book at 24 and eventually got the radio show and traveled all around Russia and started PragerU. I mean, what an amazing, incredible life. And PragerU, I mean, the impact that it is having, changing young people's minds, changing my mind, getting me to do what I do now and create videos. The same with Amla, same with all of the young people who are in Prager Force, thousands of young people and students across the world in Prager Force, Venezuela, South Africa, all over. representing our values. If you want to get involved or donate or help PragerU, go to PragerU.com. Donate today to help us continue our mission. We'll be back after the break.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
And he says, if you want to convince people to get a vaccine, writes Matt Taibbi, pretty much the worst way to go about it is a massive blame campaign delivered by sneering blue noses who have a richly deserved credibility problem with large chunks of the population and now insist they're owed financially besides. Matt Taibbi says, I'm vaccinated. I think people should be vaccinated. But the latest moral mania we're witnessing, and make no mistake about it, he writes, the pandemic of the unvaccinated PR campaign is the latest in a ceaseless series of such manias dating back to late 2016, lays bare everything that's abhorrent and nonsensical in modern American politics. Isn't that, I think that's such a smart reaction. In fact, those panelists on the Five yesterday were very wisely pointing out, Greg Gutfeld said to Geraldo, if you're trying to be persuasive, buddy, it ain't working. It ain't working. 800-655-Mike. Let's just see how persuasive Geraldo Rivera was. Here's Chris on line 1. Hey, Chris, did Geraldo help you make up your mind about the vaccine?
Totally. Now I'm really pissed off because my sister is a state worker and she doesn't want to get the vaccine, but she has to do it. So I was going to basically get it to help her move on, okay? But after hearing him, I'm not going to do it.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
It's time for the fearless. There's no time for the meek. This is America's moment. What's taking place in our schools, the crime in our cities, all of these things that we can see unraveling this most exceptional nation. It's time for the real believers and the real conservatives to step forward and be absolutely fearless in doing so.
But I think a lot of Americans have woken up, and so we don't even know what is going on the grassroots level because you can't keep track of everything. But I think people are rising up, and they're looking for folks like you and the handful of others in Congress, and they're saying we can no longer do business as usual. But I mean, 10 years ago, you were not thinking like this.
No, you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. And by the way, I can give you 2 data points from the last 48 hours. I was in southwest Missouri at the Ashcroft family farm. It was a picnic outdoor, poured rain right about an hour before the picnic. Nobody left. They left. They gave me a chance. They gave former Attorney General Ashcroft a chance to talk about the Bible and the America and what we were all going to go do. These people were on fire to take back. And I had people come up and say, I never thought I'd run for city council, and I'm going to do it. And I had a couple of law enforcement who said, I didn't have any interest in actually being the sheriff, but our sheriff won't enforce the rules. I'm going to go do that. No, this is different. I was in Iowa at an event that was very similar to that. And people are engaged in their civic life, in their churches, in their community in ways that I have not seen. I've been at this now 9-10 years from the time I first lost my mind and ran for Congress when Obama was the president and we had to throw
Ms. Prager today, Amla Epinobi and Will Witt, PragerU personalities. But before we get into taking some calls here, the coronavirus has made financial markets unpredictable, and it has not been a smooth ride for mortgage rates. Andrew and Todd are here to help you manage market volatility and help you get into a better financial situation. Many major banks and lenders are pushing back on purchase loans and suspending refi applications entirely, but not Andrew and Todd at Sierra Pacific Mortgage. They are clocked in and working remotely, ready to advise you on what's best for your situation. The decline in rates is fueling a boom in refinancing. If you are considering a refi, new purchase, cash out refi, or a reverse mortgage, don't wait on the sidelines. Rates are volatile, and there is no guarantee that they will drop further. Go to andrewandtodd.com today. Let Andrew and Todd help you navigate these challenging times. Call Andrew and Todd at 888-888-1172 or go to andrewandtodd.com and they will take it from there. There's nobody who knows about mortgage rates better than me, a 21-year-old living in Los Angeles renting an apartment.
Amla, that was an amazing read. On our show, we don't do ad reads or anything like that. No one will sponsor us. We're too radical, I guess, for these types of people. But that was amazing. That was really good.
We tell people to create strong families to support the United States of America, and apparently we're the radicals.
No, we're extremists, obviously, of course, with that. And apparently someone who thinks we're an extremist, we got a call from someone. But before I just get into this guy's call, I just want to remind you guys, 1-8-PRAGER-776. You can call into the show and talk with Amla and I. We are much younger than Dennis with a different type of perspective. So please call into the show, 1-8-PRAGER-776. And Sean, let's take Jay's call.
Hi, Jay.
Yes.
Hi, Jay.
Yes, hello.
Hi, what's going on?
So I just got to be honest. You're in your 20s and you're complaining about wearing masks at Chipotle?
Yes, that is correct.
Come on. I mean, like, when I was in my 20s, there were more important things, like the fact that kids would get busted for smoking pot. And wearing a mask at Chipotle is the least thing to whine about. Maybe I'm showing my age.
Thank you, Jay. Appreciate the call. Thank you, Jay.
Let's talk about that. I think when people have arguments like this, like wearing a mask should be the least of our worries, I think it's a fundamental misunderstanding of really what the true weight and repercussions are when it comes to mask mandates like this. It is because now, not only the government, but also corporations are telling you what you can and cannot do with your body. That's an extremely important issue. It shouldn't matter what age you are, especially when you look into the science around masking up here in America, actually around the world. There's no evidence to suggest that it does anything or that it is helpful to society. All it suggests to me is that there are people, specifically the elites in this country, who want to mandate exactly what you do with your personal liberty, with your personal freedom. And although a mask or a small piece of cloth that goes over your face may seem like a very, very small symbol of that, it is truly important that there are people who want to place that limit on you.
It's just big government policies. It doesn't even matter that it's the mask specifically, okay? Jay, I just want you to understand this and everyone to understand this. Let's look at throughout history where governments and bureaucracies and mega corporations will come in and they'll say, we just need you to do this one thing, okay? We just need you to do this one thing. Oh, just wear a mask. It's not that big of a deal. Oh, just do this when you walk into a restaurant. It's not that big of a deal. Oh, you just got to give up your guns, but we're not going to do anything bad about it, right? Just, it's not a big deal. One thing that the left is incredibly good at, which I have noticed talking to people. I did a video recently where I was talking to people about the Olympics and whether people should stand for the flag at the Olympics, about transgender athletes at the Olympics, and a guy who I talked to, he says all these things. He's like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal. Why can't they just participate? Oh, it's not that big of a deal. Why can't they just protest? And it's like these things that they try and play off as not a big deal are big deals, because you give them an inch and they take a mile every single time. So something as innocuous as coming and saying, it's just a mask at Chipotle, what's the big deal? Well, next time it's a mask at the grocery store. Next time it's 2 masks at the grocery store. Next time you can't get a loan because you're not triple vaccinated and you're a racist, because that's what they're labeling it as.
And we have several tangible examples of this happening in the real world, specifically in California. Look at the whole transgenderism issue here in America. It was stated, oh, well, transgender people can identify as whatever whatever they like, and they should be able to use that bathroom. Conservatives raised their concerns on that argument, saying that there would be men who would take advantage of that sort of legislation, and guess what? It has happened. But now that we've conceded that sort of ground, and it is very important what ground you concede, we've conceded that ground, and now it has infiltrated other facets of our society. We now see transgender people beating out biological females in their sports. We now see transgender people beating out biological females and biological males for scholarships. And we also see now in California that men who are in male prisons can file paperwork saying that they identify as a female and can now be transferred over to female facilities. In one case, a serial killer of women stated that he was a biological woman and that he was transgender and that he would like to be transferred over a female facility, and the paperwork was put through. It very much matters how much ground you concede, and putting masks and allowing people to mandate that for you is a large concession.
Don't concede at all. You compromise your values for one thing, then you compromise it for everything.
Right.
We're going to take a call from Antonio from Windsor, Massachusetts. What's going on?
How's it going, guys?
Good, man. How you doing?
Doing pretty well. I'm super happy to hear you guys respond that way. And, I'll get to my point, but you guys have been hitting the nail on the head for a lot of these things. First thing I see when I'm on dating apps is if I see liberal, if I see vaccinated, unfortunately, I'm swiping left. So
based.
So what I wanted to say was, as a lawful citizen, as a conservative, I'm 28, like I said. I'm watching all these things happen. I'm watching New York now, Bill de Blasio obviously pushing for this vaccine passport. To keep it brief, at what point does the American people, not violently, because that's never the case, but when do we stand up and for lack of better terms, protest this, like we've seen in so many other countries, in France? When is enough is enough?
Thank you, Antonio, for the call. Appreciate that. And that's a great question because I talk to a lot of people and they don't know specifically what to do. And honestly, the thing to do is to refuse these types of mandates.
Mm-hmm.
Not every single restaurant and not every single grocery store and not every single gaming place, whatever it is going to comply with these things. And these are the people that you have to find, and these are the people that you have to stick with. I mean, I've been seeing already protests across Los Angeles where people are going to restaurants and things where people are requiring vaccine passports to enter into these restaurants, and people are protesting. Some people are doing it in the wrong way, some people are doing it in the right way. You have a First Amendment right to do this. And this is why I'm talking about the last call with Jay, is why this stuff is so important, because then they say, oh, it's just masks indoors. Oh, well, it's just, you can't protest this outside. It's just one little thing that they say, we're going to take away from you. It's totally wrong.
Yeah, Dennis would say that the bigger the government, the smaller the citizen. And you asked, when is the right time to start fighting back? When is the right time to start protesting and calling these things out? The right time passed a long time ago. We are now in a battle right now where conservatives have been pushed into their own little bubble, our own little echo chamber, because we've conceded so much ground over the past few years to the left. The time to push back was a long, long time ago, and that is what we're trying to do every single day at PragerU. You can get involved with us by joining PragerForce.com if you are in high school or a young professional under the age of 35, and you can watch our videos at PragerU.com. We also appreciate any donations that you can make. This is our fundraising month, so anything that you can give to our cause to help us make content, we would really, really appreciate. We love hearing from you guys, and I love that last call because you know what's going on and you know we need to fight back. And we will be back right after this break.
Boom.
Sabrina was on hold and she went to doctor appointment. She wanted to ask, would you rather LifeLock or Relief Factor?
That's funny.
Or Life Alert, sorry.
Louisville, Kentucky. You want to say?
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
This insane reversal. We've been told by Biden, by Fauci, if you're vaccinated, you don't need a mask. Now you do, perhaps for the rest of eternity. That this decision is based apparently on an unpublished, unpeer-reviewed publication from India about a vaccine that you can't even get here in America.
Yeah, and it's actually even better than that because they didn't even understand the study, because in the CDC slide deck, they refer to it as a study in healthcare professionals when in fact it was a study in simulated persons in a laboratory. It was not a study in actual human beings.
It was a simulation.
Yes, it was a simulation. It was a lab simulation in India using vaccines that are not used in the United States and that failed peer review. So it had already been rejected for publication at the time that they relied on it in this slide deck. And now they are sort of, scrambling for other justifications for the policy, having already rolled it out. And just an hour or two ago, they rushed out a new study out of Provincetown, Massachusetts, that I suppose is now the new justification for it, the India study having been discredited.
Do you have, because you've got to follow this guy at Kerpen, Kerpen on Twitter. You are one of the most ardent, conscientious, and just trenchant followers of the truth on this issue.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Here at Salem Media Group, we're delighted to welcome you back to your old habits and haunts. Nice to see you at our restaurants. We've been waiting a long time for you to return. Nice to see you at the salon, the post office, the flower shop. Nice to see you back in the office. Nice to see all those cars on the freeway again.
Yay! Hello, Bedford Falls!
For over a year, America has been fighting to get back to normal. This Salem radio station has been fighting right alongside you. Now we're back. You're back. It feels so good to be back.
Welcome back to the real
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
And I know so many people who are resistant to the vaccine. It's just a fact of life. And there are people in all walks of life, white people, black people, Hispanic people, members of the military, the healthcare profession. You know how many nurses, and dare I say doctors, physician's assistants, unwilling to get the vaccine? It's more than a little. So what do we do with them? What do we do with those people? In fact, that's been one of the most unreported stories of the whole crisis of this pandemic. Healthcare workers who are unvaccinated.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
Stephen, let's pretend like you were president for a day. What do we do to get this economy back in shape?
So the first thing we do is we actually do exactly think of everything Biden has done and do exactly the opposite. And I'm not kidding, Carl. I mean, we do exactly the opposite of what Biden is doing. You know, we don't need $4 trillion of spending right now. We need to be, after a crisis is over, and COVID is basically over now thanks to Trump and the vaccine, usually after like World War II or after the Cold War, we actually cut spending.
Plans for the United States when it comes to COVID-19 and vaccinations. Let's listen to this.
Can't go to the ball game. Don't have a vaccine, can't go to work. You don't have a vaccine, can't come here. No shirt, no shoes, no service. That's where I think we should be right now, because we continue to waste our breath on people who are just not going to change. They're, the circular logic. They just keep going back and saying, well, it's my freedom, it's whatever.
It's my freedom or whatever, my freedom. You see how the elites think about us in this country? There are elites out there. People like Don Lemon, Chris Cuomo, they have private security. They live in private mansions. Right. They have their own restaurants they go to, their own private jets, their own ski resorts, their own hotels. They have people to get their groceries for them. They don't deal with the same types of problems that you and I and all of the listeners have to deal with. Okay? They have their own private stuff that is totally separated. So they come on, and they're rich and famous and away from the rest of us, and they say, we want to take away your freedoms. Because these types of things don't matter to them. Because they have someone that they can pay to essentially do all of these things for us, or to protect them. We don't have this same luxury. Right? But so they're totally fine with it because they're elites living in Silicon Valley or Hollywood or in the swamp in D.C. And that's a terrible thing that, people all the time that I'm hearing from, we really want to talk about the left versus right issues, and I get that that is, of course, important. We will continue to have those debates, but really, America has become an elites versus working class types of people right now in this country. That is the battle that we are facing. Elites who care nothing about us, who are in misinformation campaigns, the same people who own the media and the universities in Hollywood are the same people who are against the working class people.
Yeah, just really listen to that. Don't have the vaccine, can't go to the grocery store. Don't have the vaccine, can't go to the hospital. Don't have the vaccine, can't go to work. Don't have the vaccine, can't take your kids to school. Switch. Yeah. It's insane. This is insane. I never thought that we'd be living in an America where I would be hearing that. And as a young person today, it's really tough to grapple with, because I think about not only Will and I's generation, but future generations to come. Are they ever going to be able to experience an America that is worth living in, and experience America that is made in the image of what the Founding Fathers thought it would be?
Auber and Herbert talks about in his book about how much control you can give the government and how you make people docile is turning them into what he calls ciphers, which is docile people who are essentially just useless in a sense, right? And what you see in America is that you have let's say we give the government 10% power, okay? These are arbitrary numbers. What's to say, why don't we just give the government 50% power, 3/4 power over our lives, things that they can control? Why not just give them full control over our lives? You see what happens? When you give the government any sort of control over anything that you do in your life, you are then granting them access to give control to any aspect of your life, because the number of percentage-wise that they choose of how to control you is totally arbitrary, and then these people are getting into office, or they're in the swamp or in the woke corporations, and they are controlling the things that you do. And that's a horrible fate that we've come to America, because you have people like, imagine the minimum wage. You have people voting for the minimum wage. We want the minimum wage more. Now imagine a politician coming in and saying, I want to lower the minimum wage. That guy's not going to be very popular. So as soon as you start implementing government programs, implementing things that people get used to, you can't get rid of it.
Yes, but it's so easy for these people in their ivory towers who will never be affected by the policies that they instate and the legislation that they change to say these things live in a public forum in front of all Americans. It is truly disgusting to watch Chris Cuomo and Don Lemon go through what they believe America should look like. It's the same thing that happens with these celebrities who talk about defunding the police. All of them living in their gated communities with their own personal security guards who will never feel the repercussions of defunding America's police. And that's why at PragerU we try to fight back against these narratives. We do so with our 5-minute videos. We do so with our podcast. We do so with our book club. We want people to be educated to fight back against this sort of ideological change. You can support us at PragerU.com by going to PragerU.com/donate, and we will be taking calls in the next segment, so please call in.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
And the whole point of it was to do comedy from a Christian conservative perspective that wasn't cheesy, that didn't make us the joke. Because
isn't it funny that we always have to start there?
Yeah,
we're doing it. It's really brilliant, but it's not cheesy.
Right.
Like we're making films, but it's not cheesy. It's a TV program, but it's not cheesy.
That we do that's cheesy.
And it is an amazing thing. I said it before, but you guys, it's not just not cheesy. It's brilliant, and actually in the world in which we live today, it's almost the only stuff that's happening at that level. I mean, there's nothing on the left
I can tell you why.
To it.
The reason there's nothing good on the left right now, and I know I've followed The Onion for years. They've been around for 20 plus years. They used to be very funny. They're less funny now, and they're less funny now for a very good reason. You know, the left has made all these rules about what you can and can't say. And they also have this idea that you can't offend anybody.
Right.
So in enforcing these rules, they even do this on comedians. They try to make comedians follow rules. You can't say this, you can't say that, you can't joke about this, you can't offend this people group,
Right.
you can't punch down, never punch down.
Right.
And so they make all these rules, and comedians, by their nature, flout rules. They make fun of people who make rules. That's what comedians are supposed to do, right? That's really their role in all of this. And so to handcuff comedians in that way, leftists are actually by trying to kill comedy and strangle it, they're creating an opportunity for people on the other side of the aisle to say the things that you're not supposed to say, make the jokes you're not supposed to make.
It's fascinating to me to see people who might previously have identified as on the left or something pushing back against the cancel culture and the absurdity of this, because they usually the ones who are doing that with the right.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
And he says, if you want to convince people to get a vaccine, writes Matt Taibbi, pretty much the worst way to go about it is a massive blame campaign delivered by sneering blue noses who have a richly deserved credibility problem with large chunks of the population and now insist they're owed financially besides. Matt Taibbi says, I'm vaccinated. I think people should be vaccinated. But the latest moral mania we're witnessing, and make no mistake about it, he writes, the pandemic of the unvaccinated PR campaign is the latest in a ceaseless series of such manias dating back to late 2016, lays bare everything that's abhorrent and nonsensical in modern American politics. Isn't that, I think that's such a smart reaction. In fact, those panelists on the Five yesterday were very wisely pointing out, Greg Gutfeld said to Geraldo, if you're trying to be persuasive, buddy, it ain't working. It ain't working. 800-655-Mike. Let's just see how persuasive Geraldo Rivera was. Here's Chris on line one. Hey, Chris, did Geraldo help you make up your mind about the vaccine?
Totally. Now I'm really pissed off because my sister is a state worker and she doesn't want to get the vaccine, but she has to do it. So I was going to basically get it to help her move on, okay? But after hearing him, I'm not going to do it.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Good morning
and afternoon.
And afternoon, everyone. This is Will Witt with PragerU, joined by Amla Ekpanobi, and we're really happy to be here. We work for PragerU, an amazing organization that is putting out 5-minute videos and other content about the greatness of America, which, how can you hate that? Unless you're a leftist extremist, how could you ever hate that? So we are going to be taking some of your guys' calls right now. Remember, you can call in to 1-8-PRAGER-776. Once again, that's 1-8-PRAGER-776 to talk to Amla and I, get some advice, ask us your questions, and we will be taking your calls now. So let's get to Seba on line 6, Sean. I hope I didn't butcher your name, Seba.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Hiba. It's okay. I like Ziba. Sounds cool.
Yeah, no, ethnic.
Thank you guys for everything. You know, I just want to quickly say, you know, before I was a Christian, I was more left, you know, and I just want to be clear, not everyone that's on the left or on the right is a certain religion, but I just wanted to share, like, before I became a Christian, there was no way I would agree with you guys. And what I'm trying to say is Romans 1 says we have debased minds, our hearts are deceitful, and when I became a Christian, I became more conservative, not because I agree with the politics. I agree with God's word. So my question is, do you think that you'd be able to share the gospel, that God can do the power to change people's minds through his word, through his transforming Holy Spirit? I'm just curious because I know you guys need help and you're doing great, but I feel like God can help a lot more through the gospel, just like he changed my life and died for me and saved me and gave me his Holy Spirit, and I'm a friend of God now. You know, I don't walk around with a debased mind like I used to. So I'm just curious if you guys would ever be willing to share the gospel.
Thank you so much, Siba. Appreciate that call for sure. And it's a wonderful question. Did I pronounce the name wrong again?
You did pronounce the name
wrong.
wrong.
I'm sorry. Listen, you Siba. Siba, you are a wonderful person.
Still
okay?
wrong, but it's okay.
Siba,
Just keep
okay.
going.
Whatever. It's a good name. Okay, so this one is actually really important to me. If you guys don't follow me on Instagram or on social media at The Will Witt, you can follow me there. I just got recently baptized about 4 months ago. I gave my life to Jesus. So this type of stuff is incredibly important. And there would be no PragerU without Judeo-Christian values, okay? I want everyone to understand that the morals that America was founded on are the best morals in the world because the Founding Fathers knew that you didn't get your rights from the government. Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, these guys didn't give you your rights. You got your rights from God. You didn't get your morals from the government. You got your morals from Scripture and from God. And that's a truly important revelation. This is why it's so important to learn American history, because those are things that people don't understand.
Right, and all my life, I have a sort of different perspective. I've been an agnostic, and I just started recently going to church, and you can truly see the conservative values through the Word of God, and you can see that it's present. And even at PragerU, at our organization, we have so many different people, all of different backgrounds, different religions, who work in a Judeo-Christian organization. So I think regardless of what religion you practice in your daily life, you can recognize that America was founded with Judeo-Christian values, that a lot of our morals, a lot of our legislation, a lot of our laws are founded on those values as well. And it doesn't matter really what religion you are. You know that's what makes America great. Judeo-Christian values have shaped our nation.
That's exactly right. Thank you so much for that call. All right, let's do Laura on line 5. Laura, what's up?
Hi.
Hi, good morning. This is Laura in Camarillo.
Not too far away.
And yes, not too far away. I've had the pleasure of speaking to Dennis several times. You guys are doing a great job, first of all.
Oh, thank you.
I am so blown away that you guys are 21 and 24, for one thing. You are both incredibly witty and intelligent. I can see why Dennis would choose you too. But I wanted to do something kind for you, Will. A little bit way back there, you were talking about Dennis's dog Otto and your dog, the 100-pound combination golden retriever mastiff, right?
It's true,
yeah.
My boy Rocky.
Okay, I have the perfect solution, sir. Do not get Frontline. I have the product that you need. We had our precious angel, who we just lost on June 7th after 16 and a half years. And the one product that ever worked is called Seresto.
Seresto.
Spelled
Thank
with
you.
an S. S-E-R-E. And it lasts for 8 months, unlike the other products that are like 8 weeks.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I need to try it because he's definitely got something going on. And Laura, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Seresto. This is not an ad read for that, but
not sponsored.
Yeah, not sponsored. We're gonna see if it works. Thank you so much, Laura. Let's go to Will in Huntington Beach, California. What's going on, Will?
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Awesome. I love following you guys. I think you're really on track with everything.
Thank you.
Of course. And I was curious. I've been going into places and they tell me I need to wear a mask over in Long Beach. And I'll say thank you very much, and then I'll walk out. Should I be doing something? Should I be talking to the manager or writing a letter? Or Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm all about Thank you so much for the call, Will. Appreciate that. But I am all about writing letters. I'm all about talking to the manager. You know, we all got to channel our inner Karen and go and talk to the managers at these places and see what they're all about. And I think that, you know, like Shake Shack is now doing this mandatory vaccines. When you go into one of their hamburger places, they have mandatory vaccines. But like the guy working there, some minimum wage high school student, he's not the one enforcing this. You know, don't go in and yell at the person at the cash register or the person who's flipping the burger. Like, they don't really know anything about this. So it's important to talk to the leadership of these organizations and the managers and the owners of these places to try and get something to change, because it's not going to change as some low-level employee that you're yelling at. It's just not important. So PragerU, though, what we do is give you the answers so that you can go and talk to people, because you don't want to show up to one of these places. You don't want to show up to a debate or an argument or just trying to express your freedoms and not having the facts or not having the right values or information. That's why you watch PragerU videos. That's why you watch Dennis Prager and Amla and Will Witt and occasionally Taylor. That's why you watch us, because we give you the guys the right information. So if you want to support us so that more people can get that information, young people across the world, you go to PragerU.com, donate today, and really help us out. Thank you so much. We'll be back after the break. Thanks.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
And I know so many people who are resistant to the vaccine. It's just a fact of life. And there are people in all walks of life, white people, black people, Hispanic people, members of the military, the healthcare profession. You know how many nurses, and dare I say doctors, physician's assistants, unwilling to get the vaccine? It's more than a little. So what do we do with them? What do we do with those people? In fact, that's been one of the most unreported stories of the whole crisis of this pandemic. Healthcare workers who are unvaccinated.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
Stephen, let's pretend like you were president for a day. What do we do to get this economy back in shape?
So the first thing we do is we actually do exactly think of everything Biden has done and do exactly the opposite. And I'm not kidding, Carl. I mean, we do exactly the opposite of what Biden is doing. You know, we don't need $4 trillion of spending right now. We need to be, after a crisis is over, and COVID is basically over now thanks to Trump and the vaccine, usually after like World War II or after the Cold War, we actually cut spending. We need to be aggressively cutting government spending. By the way, government spending, you know this, Carl, where did this crazy idea come from that government spending stimulates? All the government spending stimulates is government. It doesn't. The only way, let me put it very simply, because this is really important. I know you know this as a businessman. The only way that the government can give you $1,000 is to take $1,000 away from me, right? It's a zero-sum game, and all we're doing is taking money away from producers and giving it to people who don't produce. That's a formula for disaster.
You know what? It's so funny that you mention that. I talk about that often on my show, and one of the things, it's frustrating to hear Biden talk.
career out of this. He does his Man on the Street, and now he has a book coming out. So, Will, how are you changing minds?
Amla, that was so sweet.
Thank you.
I have to give Amla a portion of my sales from the book because of that plug, so thank you. No, yeah, I wrote... Yeah. I love that. I wrote a book. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence Enemies. You guys can go to Amazon or any bookseller and look up Will Witt on there, How to Win Friends and Influence Enemies, like Amazon. Pre-order now. Book comes out in about a month and a half. But the purpose of this book that I wrote is essentially that conservatives don't know how to talk to people. This is the problem with conservatives nowadays, is that they sometimes isolate themselves, or sometimes they're on Facebook. I'm sure many of you listening right now get incredibly angry, arguing with people on social media, and there are better ways to go about this. I have gone to campuses and literally talked to thousands of people, changed literally thousands of minds, and I've been able to do this through the simple act of asking the right questions, okay? So in my book, and just at PragerU.com as well, you get the information, you get the facts, but then you also get to learn how to ask the right questions. Imagine going and talking to someone, you're talking about, let's say, climate change, and you go and tell them just straight up and you say, the world isn't going to end in 12 years, it's not that big of a deal, right? How does that person going to get? They're going to get very defensive. Now imagine if you asked someone and said, why do you think the earth is going to end in 12 years? And you're able to build these questions off of the facts that you know, because it's not you changing their mind, it's them changing their own mind, because they can't answer the questions that you are giving them. So by putting your facts into questions, instead of just telling them facts, you are going to be able to change minds perfectly. It takes a lot of practice. I know it's hard. You get angry. It's a very difficult thing to do. But my book has all the answers.
Will's great. Just ask him.
Yeah, exactly.
No, Will is great. And something that he does when he goes out and he's changing people's minds is he does it with compassion. And that's the most important thing. For those of you who know me, my story is I was a extremely angry leftist. I even worked for the left. And it took compassionate conservatives on the internet who were just espousing their views and trying to tell me, hey, I know this is the way that you see the world, and I know you view yourself as oppressed, and I know people have convinced you to believe this, but it is simply not the case. And it's compassionate conservatives who are making logical arguments to me that changed my mind and that led me down this route. And that was through PragerU. I was watching PragerU videos, and you can do that by going to PragerU.com, and you can donate to us so that we can make more. We'll be back after this break.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
And he says, if you want to convince people to get a vaccine, writes Matt Taibbi, pretty much the worst way to go about it is a massive blame campaign delivered by sneering blue noses who have a richly deserved credibility problem with large chunks of the population and now insist they're owed financially besides. Matt Taibbi says, I'm vaccinated. I think people should be vaccinated. But the latest moral mania we're witnessing, and make no mistake about it, he writes, the pandemic of the unvaccinated PR campaign is the latest in a ceaseless series of such manias dating back to late 2016, lays bare everything that's abhorrent and nonsensical in modern American politics. Isn't that, I think that's such a smart reaction. In fact, those panelists on the Five yesterday were very wisely pointing out, Greg Gutfeld said to Geraldo, if you're trying to be persuasive, buddy, it ain't working. It ain't working. 800-655-Mike. Let's just see how persuasive Geraldo Rivera was. Here's Chris on line one. Hey, Chris, did Geraldo help you make up your mind about the vaccine?
Totally. Now I'm really pissed off because my sister is a state worker and she doesn't want to get the vaccine, but she has to do it. So I was going to basically get it to help her move on, okay? But after hearing him, I'm not going to do it.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
time. It's time for the fearless. There's no time for the meek. This is America's moment. What's taking place in our schools, the crime in our cities, all of these things that we can see unraveling this most exceptional nation. It's time for the real believers and the real conservatives to step forward and be absolutely fearless in doing so.
But I think a lot of Americans have woken up, and so we don't even know what is going on the grassroots level because you can't keep track of everything. But I think people are rising up, and they're looking for folks like you and the handful of others in Congress, and they're saying we can no longer do business as usual. But I mean, 10 years ago, you were not thinking like this.
No, you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. And by the way, I can give you 2 data points from the last 48 hours. I was in Southwest Missouri at the Ashcroft family farm. It was a picnic outdoor, poured rain right about an hour before the picnic. Nobody left. They left. They gave me a chance. They gave former Attorney General Ashcroft a chance to talk about the Bible and the America and what we were all going to go do. These people were on fire to take back. And I had people come up and say, I never thought I'd run for city council, and I'm going to do it. And I had a couple law enforcement who said, I didn't have any interest in actually being the sheriff, but our sheriff won't enforce the rules. I'm going to go do that. No, this is different. I was in Iowa at an event that was very similar to that. And people are engaged in their civic life, in their churches, in their community in ways that I have not seen. I've been at this now 9-10 years from the time I first lost my mind and ran for Congress when Obama was the president and we had to throw Nancy out the last time. Who'd have believed we'd have to throw her out of speakership again? But here we are, and this is a moment where our people are being tested, they're being challenged, and my observation is people are rising to that challenge.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
Universal masking is going to be mandatory for source control and prevention. But most amazingly, in the new CDC leaked documents that we have here on our program, is that they model the vaccine only being 75 to 85% effective. That's their own internal modeling. Is that a vaccine or is that a therapeutic? Have you ever heard of a vaccine only being 75 or 85% effective? That's their own modeling. That's their own assumptions. And it says here, given higher transmissibility and current vaccine coverage, universal masking is essential to reduce transmission of the dental variant. Basically, they're saying, look, you want to talk about people who are sowing vaccine hesitancy? You want to talk about people that are sowing discord and losing trust in the vaccine? It's the Center for Disease Control. Joe Biden and the federal government is now running interference at a very aggressive pace. Cut 89. Joe Biden says, at my direction, all federal personnel and visitors to federal buildings will have to do the same. Cut 89.
Who live in areas with substantial or high case rates will follow the mask guidance that's being laid down by the CDC. And at my decision, at my direction, all federal personnel and visitors to federal buildings will have to do the same thing.
Every single building. Alan Dershowitz, a man I have a lot of respect for, is just so wrong on this, it's hard to even put into words. Cut 91, Alan Dershowitz says, and I'd love to have him on our podcast and describe this, because he's a civil liberty guy.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
We have vaccine mandates for federal workers. Nancy Pelosi says masks are back. You're going to be arrested if you don't wear them in Congress. When is this going to end, Phil?
It's I don't know when it's going to end. We've got the masks are mandatory again in Washington, D.C. As of 5 a.m. Tomorrow morning, which is very interesting because it's been 13 days since the District of Columbia last reported a death with COVID. We've had 11 homicides in the last 13 days, but 0 deaths with COVID. And,
maybe they should ban homicides, Phil.
Yeah, right. Well, or at least maybe have a little bit more vigorous enforcement of the existing laws against them.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to
introed it by saying that Amla and Will are going to be hosting. Otherwise, you would have been very confused. You would have really thought that I was Dennis.
Really? It's immaculate match.
No, we've had a great time. So we are personalities from PragerU. We're standing in for Dennis today, hosting the radio show, and we've talked about a lot of stuff today. We've talked about COVID-19. We've talked about drawing the line when it comes to tyranny. We've talked about Dennis and the sage words of advice that he's given us. But now we want to talk about another issue that's popping up in today's time, and that is blurring the lines of biological reality between men and women. Now, the story that we're going to get into today is actually out of the University of California. A professor, while doing an endocrinology course, apologized to his students for saying a certain phrase. Now, this didn't shock me when I read it because I'm so accustomed to hearing these political issues nowadays, but this might be shocking. This professor apologized for saying the phrase pregnant woman.
Egad. Craziness. I can't believe she said that. What a bigot.
I bet the whole lecture hall just gasped when they heard the word woman.
Well, yeah, because obviously men can get pregnant. Men
Right.
can menstruate, men can get pregnant. Isn't that what happens nowadays?
If you don't know that, then what are you doing
Yeah,
here?
you're obviously a transphobic bigot. I mean, that's the world that we're living in now, right?
Yeah, that is the world that we're living in now, where as a man or as a woman, which we both know that those are the two genders, the two sexes, you can now identify as whatever you want to be. And us in society, we are meant to accept that.
What does it make the world out to be when you have these things that come out, like pregnant man, and all of these different ways that the left has tried to redefine language? What does it say about what truth means to Americans? To me, it paints a very grim picture because it makes me feel like people think truth is subjective. And it's a very vain thing as well, that people come out and they say, oh, I am this, I am that. All of these things matter because I think it. It's a very vain way of thinking about the world. And they take truth as subjective for whatever they think the truth is. When in reality, truth is an objective standard. Men are men. Men cannot give birth. I'm coming on here and giving a super hot take, apparently.
Sure, apparently.
But I think most people would agree with me. Men cannot give birth, and that shouldn't be a controversial statement. There are objective truths out there that have been around for centuries, for a long time, that people know to be true, but the left, in their constant effort to make a chaotic world that they control, try and make truth subjective. And this is how this is their plan to destroy America, is by making the things that you know to be true and making them out to be evil and horrible and bigoted.
Wow, Will, I am overwhelmed by the amount of bigotry that I just heard with what you just said. Honestly, as a black female, I'm feeling super oppressed and super offended by that.
Oh, cancel me. Please. Please. They tried and canceled me. It's
They
okay.
try.
They try.
It doesn't work because we work for PragerU.
Exactly. All our fans know what's really going on.
But yeah, in our next segment, we're going to get into what we view as masculinity and femininity, and probably talk about the feminist movement and the demasculization of men here in America. But when we talk about the trans issues, what I really want to focus on is the caricature that conservatives get when it comes to this issue. We get characterized as people who are non-compassionate, that we don't care about others, and that for some reason we want trans people to be dead. I hear that quite a bit. I'm sure that's hate that you get as well, Will. And it's simply not the case. And when we look into the issue of transgenderism, especially from the left's perspective, what they do is that they say, okay, young kid, you're confused about your gender, here's hormone therapy, here's hormone replacement, and here's a sex reassignment surgery. They just give them exactly what their confusion is pushing towards, because they don't want to feel bigoted and they don't want to be painted as some sort of oppressive figure. And we know that it does not work. Transgenderism has been studied time and time again, and these studies show that going through this sex reassignment surgery, these hormone blockers, this hormone therapy, does not change outcomes. And transgender people in this country have one of the highest rates of suicidal ideation and actually going through with either attempts of suicide or killing themselves. And surgery does not change that. Hormone therapy does not change that. Yet the cognitive dissonance on the left pushes them towards putting people through these harmful treatments instead of giving them the truth and saying, maybe we should seek long-term treatment for the confusion.
Well, parents who do this to their children, I mean, that is child abuse in any sense of the word. Again, another hot take that the left is going to want to cancel me for, but it's really not that controversial that pushing your kid to do this is a form of child abuse. And I want to give you guys a piece of advice that we were talking about on our show yesterday, which is every single day, weekday at 2:30 p.m. Pacific, that's 5:30 p.m. Eastern, on the PragerU YouTube channel if you guys want to hear even more than 3 hours of Amla and I every single day. But it's a thing about being in the majority. And I was thinking about this yesterday because I go out and I talk to people and I look online, and sometimes I really feel like I am in the minority with the things I believe. Amla feels that way.
Yep.
I'm sure all of you guys as conservatives or freedom lovers feel all the time that you are in the minority on your campus or at work or even within your own family. And that's a very scary thing. But I want to remind you guys that being in the minority is actually a good thing. That people who are in the majority think that because they are in the majority, they are somehow virtuous. That having more people agree with them is a virtuous thing. And to me, that is a total perversion of what free thought and free expression is supposed to be like. Because being in the minority used to be heralded as a good thing. That you would say, oh, I have an idea that's different. I want to come out and discuss it. And now it's like, oh, if you are in the minority according to the left, you need to be shamed, you need to be canceled, and you need to be ostracized. This is the religion of the left. So I just want everyone to remember that if you are part of this conservative minority or just a free thinking, free values type of minority of person, this is the time for you. This is the time where you get to take these struggles and take these people that are against you and use it to push your ideas out there and become the best person of yourself. Think about all of the greatest people throughout history. They have had struggles and they have had people against them, and because of that, they were able to achieve something great. That can be you.
Right. This woke leftism, remember, is relatively new, especially to America. This is not something that we've been dealing for a long time, although it gets much, much more extreme as the days go by. I know a lot of people say 1966 is the year that everything changed, the year we started going through this sort of woke progression in our nation. But remember that everybody before then was generally a conservative. They loved America, they loved family values, they loved Judeo-Christian values. So you have millions of people in this country right now, millions of people looking down on you right now, watching you fight this fight, and I'm sure they could never imagine that America was going to be in this place right now.
I don't think so.
It's hard for me to even imagine where America's going to be.
I mean, I've been around for 24 years. All right, some of you guys listening, that might be that's not that long.
Right.
Okay, I understand. You guys are probably like, oh, this stupid kid. What does
who
he
would
know
listen to
about
him?
America? But I'll tell you how bad it is, because growing up, even 10 years ago, when I was in high school and even in elementary school and stuff, this stuff was not as prevalent. It was not as prevalent. Even for me being 24 years old, I'm giving you guys straight insight from me, and I'm sure Amla feels exactly the same.
I do.
As we were growing up, these things were not a concern. If you liked politics as a kid, like in middle school, you were one of those weird kids who liked politics. You know, the type of kid who wore a suit to school.
Right?
You know what I mean?
You're
Like that's what it used to be like. Now being political is like the cool thing to do for a lot of
you're political at 5 years old now.
Yeah, it's like Andrew Breitbart talking about we are the rebel, we are the counterculture, like that. And that's a good thing now, because the politics of the left has gone so extreme that the right has to really push back really strongly against it, or at least people with freedom-loving values. So it's strange how much it's changed that, you know, this used to be such a weird thing to be involved in politics, and now it's like, you should be. Or not even in politics, but in the culture and in the war of values, you should be involved in that.
Okay, and we're going to take a call from Brent in Los Angeles. Hi.
Hi, Amala and Will.
How are you?
Yeah, good, and I'm just adoring and appreciating you. And I want to give you both a big hug and a kiss in a loving, paternal, non-Biden, Como, or Clinton fashion.
Amazing, amazing.
And I think you are a sublime example of what makes up the best of authentic conservatism. And you have a passion for knowledge and wisdom and truth and a ravenous curiosity for all things human. And I think you refuse to wear masks because you refuse to submit to the sadistic psychological slavery that is democratic socialism.
You are absolutely right. That is the one driving factor in this, is that you can see this sort of evil ideology creeping into our country. And though a mask may seem like a very small thing, it is symbolic. It does represent where our country is headed. And for us to say, no, I'm not going to do that, is a statement. And I do want to remind people, I know a lot of people lose hope in this fight, and they think that the woke left is truly the majority. The woke left is not the majority. They are simply the loudest in the room. And what we can do as conservatives is start to get louder. Of course, we do that compassionately. Of course, we do that with our hearts in it. Of course, we do that with truth and honesty. But we need to match them where they're at.
Exactly. And talking about, again, that mask thing that just came up, and you were talking about, you know, how much of it is a lie and why it's actually kind of a big deal to not do the things that the government or whoever tells you, is because these are lies. Why would I compromise for lies?
Right.
I am not going to ever compromise for lies that someone tells me. I know what the truth is, and I'm going to continue to fight against evil. It's like Jesus, you know, going to the Pharisees and telling them, you den of vipers. This is the same type of attitude that we need to be having when we are going out and talking to people and saying that there is evil out there and we are going to beat it, right?
Right.
Who's with me? Who's with me right now that we are going to beat evil back in this country? Because there are some evil people out there. Guys, if you want to fight evil with us, with Amla and I, you know, figuratively fighting evil, please join PragerU. Go to PragerU.com. Donate today so that we can continue to fight the evil, fight the war that we are, and spread our values as far as we can. Thank you, guys. Be back after the break.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
And the whole point of it was to do comedy from a Christian conservative perspective that wasn't cheesy, that didn't make us the joke. Because
isn't it funny that we always have to start there?
Yeah,
we're doing it. It's really brilliant, but it's not cheesy.
Right.
Like we're making films, but it's not cheesy. It's a TV program, but it's not cheesy.
That we do that's cheesy.
And it is an amazing thing. I said it before, but you guys, it's not just not cheesy. It's brilliant, and actually, in the world in which we live today, it's almost the only stuff that's happening at that level. I mean, there's nothing on the left.
Well, I can tell you
compare
why.
To it.
The reason there's nothing good on the left right now, and I know I've followed The Onion for years. They've been around for 20 plus years. They used to be very funny. They're less funny now, and they're less funny now for a very good reason. You know, the left has made all these rules about what you can and can't say, and they also have this idea that you can't offend anybody.
Right.
So in enforcing these rules, they even do this on comedians. They try to make comedians follow rules. You can't say this, you can't say that, you can't joke about this, you can't offend this people group,
right.
You can't punch down, never punch down.
Right.
And so they make all these rules, and comedians, by their nature, flout rules. They make fun of people who make rules. That's what comedians are supposed to do, right? That's really their role in all of this. And so to handcuff comedians in that way, leftists are actually by trying to kill comedy and strangle it, they're creating an opportunity for people on the other side of the aisle to say the things that you're not supposed to say, make the jokes you're not supposed to make.
It's fascinating to me to see people who might previously have identified as on the left or something pushing back against the cancel culture and the absurdity of this, because they usually the ones who are doing that with the right.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
And he says, if you want to convince people to get a vaccine, writes Matt Taibbi, pretty much the worst way to go about it is a massive blame campaign delivered by sneering blue noses who have a richly deserved credibility problem with large chunks of the population and now insist they're owed financially besides. Matt Taibbi says, I'm vaccinated. I think people should be vaccinated. But the latest moral mania we're witnessing, and make no mistake about it, he writes, the pandemic of the unvaccinated PR campaign is the latest in a ceaseless series of such manias dating back to late 2016, lays bare everything that's abhorrent and nonsensical in modern American politics. Isn't that, I think that's such a smart reaction. In fact, those panelists on the Five yesterday were very wisely pointing out, Greg Gutfeld said to Geraldo, if you're trying to be persuasive, buddy, it ain't working. It ain't working. 800-655-Mike. Let's just see how persuasive Geraldo Rivera was. Here's Chris on line 1. Hey, Chris, did Geraldo help you make up your mind about the vaccine?
Totally. Now I'm really pissed off because my sister is a state worker and she doesn't want to get the vaccine, but she has to do it. So I was going to basically get it to help her move on, okay? But after hearing him, I'm not going to do it.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube.
Good morning, everybody. I love saying that. I never get a chance to say something like that, so I'm going to keep doing it. Good morning, everyone. This is Will Witt with PragerU, joined by Amla Epinobi with PragerU. We are PragerU personalities, and we are subbing in for Dennis Prager today while he is out. I want to tell you guys about something really important. After a year plus of lockdowns and mandates that crippled America's economy, our leaders in Washington, D.C. still haven't gotten the message. Our small business owners are hurting, while their big global competitors thrive. What's Washington, D.C.'s response? More talk of mandates, unprecedented government spending, and tax increases. The same misguided policies of President Carter that led to soaring gas prices, record inflation, and job losses. Only one organization in America is fighting the war on small business being waged by President Biden and the Democrats in Congress. Job Creators Network. If you own a small business, join the growing army of JCN members now and learn how to become a small business advocate. The American people love and trust our small business owners, but they need to hear from you. Hear your stories, your struggles. That's why I urge all small business owners listening, and friends of small businesses too, to go to jobcreatorsnetwork.com now and become a member. That's jobcreatorsnetwork.com. The fight's ours to win if we fight it. Now, my name is Will Witt. I am joined with a feminist. So as a feminist, you think that we are supposed to be equal?
No, I don't think that. I think that women are better than men. I think that you're oppressing us in a patriarchal society and that you pay us less for the same work. And I also think I should have access to abortions if and when that I need them.
And how is it that I am oppressing you?
Just through, honestly, just being alive, you're oppressing me as a woman. I can feel your oppressive forces on me at all times of the day.
And so if I transition to become a woman, am I still oppressing you?
No, that's acceptable. You can transition to become a woman, and then I will accept you into my feminist colony.
Perfect. And then I will protest the men as well.
Yes, as a woman, you will protest the men as well.
This sounds like a great deal. Gonna be honest.
And scene. Yeah, Will and I, whenever we open up our show that we do every single weekday at 2:30 on YouTube and Facebook for PragerU, we do a little skit just to... When you see leftist ideology really played out right in front of your face, it is amazing to me how ridiculous it sounds.
Oh, I mean, it is absolutely laughable that these types of ideas have come into the mainstream. Things that used to be considered common sense, that men are men, women are women, that there are certain roles in the family, that having a family is even a good thing. Right. I mean, these were very basic to grasp concepts that even children would understand. But then you go to university, or you go to even public schools nowadays, or you watch stuff on social media or in Hollywood, and your perception of the world is totally changed. The natural way that humans think is being destroyed by manufactured culture from centralized, disgusting parts of this country that are trying to completely change our way of life.
Yeah, and I don't know when I started to see it change, but I know in particular I would see these t-shirts in high school that the leftist kids would wear, and of course I wanted one at the time, that said, you know, we need to raise boys and girls the same. And it doesn't matter what gender they are, they need to be raised the same. And it's a sort of cognitive dissonance with that. Boys and girls are genetically, biologically, characteristically different. Yet we have gone through this whole turmoil in this country to sort of erase those biological differences and make this sort of blurry amalgamation of what it means to be a human.
No, it's very strange that people want to change those differences. And it's so that people won't know the truth. Again, just like we were talking about before, that there are objective truths out there, and then is there a subjective opinion that the left has, but they want to change their subjective opinions into the truth of the world. You know that something is is true if it's self-evident for the most part. A lot of things that are true are very common sense, right? You just think it and you know it to be true. There's just something inside of you that kind of tells you like, oh, this is true. Maybe you need some backup evidence and things, but you can usually tell. And then you know something is a lie when it has to be forced on you. When people come and tell you that if you don't believe this, you're a bad person, it's probably a lie that they are trying to force on you. The truth is self-evident and it comes out by itself, but lies have to be forced onto you, and you'll see it all the time.
Are you ready to hear something super controversial, everybody?
Oh my goodness, yes.
I am a woman, and being a woman makes me more nurturing, it makes me more caring, it makes me more sensitive. Will, you are a man. It makes you more assertive, makes you a little bit more aggressive, and you're probably a little bit more ambitious when it comes to career. Oh my goodness.
You should never have children. You only focus on your career. That's what the left will tell you.
It is what they'll tell you. And I have, such a bone to pick with the feminist movement right now. You see all these young girls growing up, and maybe they're in their late 20s, early 30s, and now they're saying, you know what? I need to slave away to my corporation. I need to slave away to my career. Family's unimportant. In fact, right now, it's environmental racism to have a family in this country, apparently, because you are contributing to climate change. And they'll tell women, they tell young girls that your career is just as important and just as fulfilling as going out and starting a strong family unit. Of course, that is not the case. And they sell it to us as if it is. And it is so disheartening to see now the birth rates coming out of America right now, because we have culturally shifted our young men and our young women to not want to build families and to not want to have children.
No, they don't. They would rather focus on other things. You are being distracted in America right now by things that do not matter, by the latest Netflix show about John B. on Outer Banks, which that is partly me who is distracted by that, can't help it. But all fast food and social media and leftist jargon, things that they want to distract you with so that they can control you. And the thing that's so nefarious and about the left is that they will tell you when they want to take away your freedoms and they want to brainwash you with these ideas of masculinity and femininity and tell you that it's going to change your life for the better, they do it as a guise of virtue, and they say that these things are going to make your life better, and this is the natural way of the world, and that things that have been going on for thousands of years, that's only because it was manufactured by humans, but the natural way we are is like this. And so they tell you that it's a good thing, and this is how they control so many people. It's the same thing with COVID. It's that they tell you it's a good thing while they strip your freedoms away and make you think that you like it. They make you think that you like having your freedom stripped away. That having your freedom stripped away or being brainwashed is a good thing.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many young girls I meet who say, oh, I'm just going to be the crazy aunt who gets to drink and gets to do her job and gets to fly around, and then I'll just, have a niece and nephew that I get to see when I want to see them. And that's okay. If that's the life that you want as a young woman, you want to slave away to your career, and that's the ambition that you have, sure, that is fine. Do not sell that to me as if that is what it means to be feminine. Obviously, you are doing something that is traditionally masculine. It has been a masculine thing for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years, and now they're trying to sell it to us as if this is what it means to be a true woman, and it is not.
Hashtag live, laugh, whine. That's what being a woman is all about, okay? We know.
I'm going to say hashtag bring back manly men and bring back feminine women.
We were talking yesterday on our show about first dates and about first dates being overrated or underrated. And I said for men, at least, that first dates are underrated. Because men don't want to take responsibility. Men don't want to go out and actually do important things. There used to be heroes. You remember that? I mean, I don't think really in my lifetime I can think of many heroes out in the world, but back in history, throughout time, in American history and just the world, there have been heroes. Men who have stepped up to the plate to fight evil. And then there have been men who say, I want to live the most comfortable, safe life as possible. And that's what we have with men right now in America, and just even in the West in general, is men who do not want to fight for anything, and they would rather be safe and comfortable. So you guys watching, you men, what type of a man do you want to be? Do you want to be a hero in your own right? Do you want to be an Ubermensch, as Nietzsche would call it? Or do you want to be someone who is safe and comfortable? If you want to learn more about this masculinity, femininity debate, please go to PragerU.com. Check it out. You can also donate to PragerU so that we can continue to make strong men and strong women who know the true values of America. Thanks. We'll be back after the break.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
It's time for the fearless. There's no time for the meek. This is America's moment. What's taking place in our schools, the crime in our cities, all of these things that we can see unraveling this most exceptional nation. It's time for the real believers and the real conservatives to step forward and be absolutely fearless in doing so.
But I think a lot of Americans have woken up, and so we don't even know what is going on the grassroots level because you can't keep track of everything. But I think people are rising up, and they're looking for folks like you and a handful of others in Congress, and they're saying we can no longer do business as usual. But I mean, 10 years ago, you were not thinking like this.
No, you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. And by the way, I can give you 2 data points from the last 48 hours. I was in Southwest Missouri at the Ashcroft family farm. It was a picnic outdoor. Poured rain right about an hour before the picnic. Nobody left. They left. They gave me a chance. They gave former Attorney General Ashcroft a chance to talk about the Bible and the America and what we were all going to go do. These people were on fire to take back. And I had people come up and say, I never thought I'd run for city council, and I'm going to do it. And I had a couple law enforcement who said, I didn't have any interest in actually being the sheriff, but our sheriff won't enforce the rules. I'm going to go do that. No, this is different. I was in Iowa at an event that was very similar to that. And people are engaged in their civic life, in their churches, in their community in ways that I have not seen. I've been at this now 9-10 years from the time I first lost my mind and ran for Congress when Obama was the president and we had to throw Nancy out the last time. Who'd have believed we'd have to throw her out of speakership again? But here we are, and this is a moment where our people are being tested, they're being challenged, and my observation is people are rising to that challenge.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
Universal masking is going to be mandatory for source control and prevention. But most amazingly, in the new CDC leaked documents that we have here on our program, is that they model the vaccine only being 75 to 85% effective. That's their own internal modeling. Is that a vaccine or is that a therapeutic? Have you ever heard of a vaccine only being 75 or 85% effective? That's their own modeling. That's their own assumptions. And it says here, given higher transmissibility and current vaccine coverage, universal masking is essential to reduce transmission of the dental variant. Basically, they're saying, look, you want to talk about people who are sowing vaccine hesitancy? You want to talk about people that are sowing discord and losing trust in the vaccine? It's the Center for Disease Control. Joe Biden and the federal government is now running interference at a very aggressive pace. Cut 89. Joe Biden says, at my direction, all federal personnel and visitors to federal buildings will have to do the same. Cut 89.
Who live in areas with substantial or high case rates will follow the mask guidance that's being laid down by the CDC. And at my decision,
tell them to call.
My direction, all federal personnel and visitors to federal buildings will have to do the same thing.
Every single building. Alan Dershowitz, a man I have a lot of respect for, is just so wrong on this, it's hard to even put into words. Cut 91, Alan Dershowitz says, and I'd love to have him on our podcast and describe this, he's a civil liberty guy.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Hey guys, we are back. We hope you're having a fantastic morning, a fantastic afternoon. We are your stand-in hosts, Amla Abenovi and Will Witt from PragerU. And we're going to take some calls on this segment. If you guys want to call into the radio show, call 1-8-PRAGER-776. The first call we're going to go to is Jared.
Jared from Philadelphia.
What's up, Jared?
I mean, you said so many things to disagree with since I first called. I don't even know where I was.
I believe you're on transgenderism and children. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, right. So one thing Will mentioned was this child abuse forcing transgenderism upon children.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Show me an example where anybody has forced their child to transition. And let's have a conversation.
Oh, I think there's a little bit of confusion there. There's no forcing a child to
No,
transition.
I know. So what's child abuse issues here? Educating, enlightening?
Well, no, it is. Jared, thank you so much. I appreciate it. It is forced. Because a child does not make these decisions. If a parent goes up to his kid and offers him beer and says, "Oh, you can have some beer," maybe he didn't force it,
right?
But he is essentially forcing it because a child doesn't really know how to make decisions. So if the parent is pushing their child to be transgender or to change their gender at such a young age, that is child abuse because that is unfair. Because a child cannot make those type of decisions on his own. He is a minor. This is why minors can't vote. This is why minors can't drink. This is why minors don't serve in war or can watch pornography or any of these other things because they do not have the mental capacity to make these kinds of decisions. So when a parent does this, maybe they're not pushing them down on the ground and saying, "You have to be a transgender." But they are essentially forcing them because a child doesn't have a cognitive choice if the parent is pushing it onto them.
Right, let's put this into perspective. I used to work in the medical field before working at Prager University. I used to give allergy shots. Kids would come in, they'd get their allergy tests, and they'd come and get shots. A kid, doesn't matter what age you are, as long as you are below the age of 18, you cannot come into our clinic and consent to getting a totally safe allergy shot without a parent present. Now we are saying that kids are able to transition their sex and their gender. It is completely ridiculous, and what happens is these parents sort of plant the seed of these sort of gender confused ideas in a kid's mind and pushes them further towards transgenderism. Now what's funny about this whole transgender argument is that we rarely hear from the young people who have detransitioned after receiving sex reassignment surgery, but turns out there are hundreds of stories of that happening. Now 60 Minutes did a special of this, which I was really surprised 60 Minutes would come out and do it, but young people talking about the fact that they expressed gender confusion, they went to a doctor with their parents' permission, and within 2 months were undergoing hormone blockers, hormone replacement therapy, and sex reassignment surgery. This is completely distasteful. And like I said before on the program, if you guys were listening, when it comes to the transgender community, they're a small subset of the American population. Yet they have one of the highest rates of suicidal ideation. Something at about 40% of people who are transgender have attempted suicide or thought about attempting suicide at one point in their life. And this does not change with sex reassignment. It does not change with hormone blockers. It does not change with hormone therapy. So a parent that would knowingly push their kid into this sort of gender confusion and support their kid undergoing this sort of therapy is committing child abuse.
That is 100% right, Amla. Thank you so much. Let's get into Ellis, 21 from Charlotte, North Carolina. Ellis, you're on the line. Been waiting to say that.
Hi, how are y'all?
We're great. How are you?
I'm good. I have a question for you guys.
Go for it.
So, I'm 21. I'm about to be a senior in college. And I definitely lean more conservative. But something that I've kind of noticed with, just the culture of young conservatives, I don't know if it's a Southern thing or just kind of all around, but I see, conservative TikToks and, all the organizations that are conservative at my university and all that stuff, they're kind of I don't want to be rude or anything, but they're a little cringe sometimes, a little weird, and I know a couple more normal conservatives that are young, but coming as two people who are younger and for the most part, I don't know you guys, I don't really, but you guys seem pretty normal, and I feel like a lot of the culture is kind of lost because being liberal as a young person is
I totally
cool,
agree with you, Ellis.
Yeah, weird.
Ellis, it's tough. Thank you so much for the call. There are some differences within the conservative movement like that, for sure. And yes, Amla and I are incredibly cool. Just insanely cool. Get told that all the time. But it's tough. But you can't look at... It's like looking at any group of people. Yeah, there are some weirder kids in every single type of group, whether you go on the left or the right or something that's not even political, a chess club or a sports team. Yeah, there's always going to be some weirder people or kind of cringe, as you say it, in every single group. But that's just kind of how it goes. You still have to find the best values and the best things that are going to make it so that you can make the best impact, no matter what the group is. And if you think the people are cringe, that means you can get in there and change it for the better. We can't just complain about the things that we think are weird. We have to get in there and change it. And that's why you join Prager Force, our student program. And all young people listening should join our student program, Prager Force. And you can also go to PragerU.com to donate to help our student program, help keep our videos free, and fight the left. We'll be right back.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
We have vaccine mandates for federal workers. Nancy Pelosi says masks are back. You're going to be arrested if you don't wear them in Congress. When is this going to end, Phil?
You know, it's I don't know when it's going to end. We've got the masks are mandatory again in Washington, D.C. As of 5 a.m. Tomorrow morning, which is very interesting because it's been 13 days since the District of Columbia last reported a death with COVID. We've had 11 homicides in the last 13 days,
Yep.
But 0 deaths with COVID. And,
Maybe they should ban homicides, Phil.
Yeah, right. Well, or at least maybe have a little bit more vigorous enforcement of the existing laws against them.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Rovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick at AmFed Coin and Bullion to find out more. I've been friends with Nick for years, and he's my go-to guy when it comes to coins and bullion. I trust him. He is a good and very knowledgeable man. Call Nick at 800-221-7694, 800-221-7694, AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com. Not one mistake.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
Well, according to the CDC's own documents, right here, Barnstable, or is it Barnstable? Whatever. County, Massachusetts. Outbreak. In all bold. No difference in mean CT values in unvaccinated and vaccinated cases. In fact, the vaccinated cases were 0.4% higher. That's the CDC's own data. That vaccinated Americans in Massachusetts, I'm just reading from the document, in Barnstable County, that the median among vaccinated was N equals 80. I'm not sure what that value represents, but 21.9. Unvaccinated, N equals 65, 21.5. I'm guessing that's how many people they were testing. I need to go look at what the values represent. It says here that risk of infection, reinfection with the Delta variant may be higher compared to the Alpha variant.
Good morning.
You're really milking that.
I am milking it. We have two more segments
It's
left.
almost
and I'm
noon Pacific. I think you have to say it's good afternoon at this point.
I'm going to keep doing it as much as I can. So, guys, I am Will Witt with PragerU, joined by Amla Epinobi here from PragerU, PragerU personalities who have come that we want to share good values with all of the great listeners of Dennis Prager's show. While Dennis Prager is gone, we are here in his stead, taking his place, answering questions, taking calls, talking about news, and I think we're going to go into a call now. We got a girl, Sophie, who is 21 from New York, where they are now mandating vaccines. Let's hear from you, Sophie.
Hello, Sophie.
Hi, Will. Hi, Amala. Wow. Can't believe I get to talk to you guys. What a privilege. I have a really big question. I hope that I'm able to articulate it properly.
Sure.
I have very conservative views, and something that I appreciate but also ends up kind of bothering me sometimes is that I think a lot of conservative representatives in social media are just general, like, big businesses, let's say, like, at PragerU or on the Daily Wire, any type of role models like that. They end up kind of focusing sometimes on more social issues, which is obviously so important, but it ends up upsetting, I think, some people who would be more open or would have more willingness to hear out sort of like different conservative ideas if they didn't think that certain social like perspectives were being attacked. For example, like way back, or not even way back, but when Candace Owens was kind of talking about what Harry Styles was doing and how men need to be manly, and I agree with that, but I think it kind of took away from other conservative messages.
Yeah, I definitely get that, Sophie. Thank you so much for the call, Sophie.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. I definitely get what you're saying. Here's what I think about it. I think that you can have a big tent conservatism where you can have a lot of people join in, and you have people from all different ways of life and all different perspectives. I mean, this is what I try to do on my show and with PragerU content in general, is that we want everyone who is humanly possible, 7.9 billion people on Earth, to all watch our videos and learn something, even if they disagree, right? So I feel like people out there, hopefully at least, are mature enough to be able to hear something that they disagree with and still either learn or recognize that it's different. And I personally, myself, am not too worried about pushing people away in that sense by talking about maybe conservative social issues or things that are different, because that is the truth. I am not going to shelter people from the truth because it might push some people away. It's like, that's the truth, you know?
Right.
Like you're not trying to exactly, it's like I said this the other day on Twitter, it was like, when you try to please everyone, you end up impressing no one and being mediocre. You need to get as many people to know the truth, and that is first and foremost what you should be doing.
Right, and I think the social issue should not be strayed away from, because that's where we're losing the culture. If you change the culture socially, you've lost it. So those are things that we need to talk about. However, I do think the way in which you talk about these things is super important.
Yeah, 100%.
It should always be from a point of understanding. Whenever I talk to anybody who's on the left, whether that's on a social issue, a fiscal issue, it doesn't matter. I always try to establish, well, I was exactly where you were. I understand exactly where you're coming from, but here's why I think differently now. So we should be able to talk about any and everything, especially social issues happening right now. We should just do so compassionately. Let's go ahead and take another call.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. All right, Kathleen, let's get you on the line. You are from Montana, Billings, Montana. I love Montana. I'm a huge fan.
I haven't been. How are you doing, Kathleen?
I'm doing well. I don't know if we have the best connection because I am in Montana and I can barely hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
We are connected, body, spirit, mind, Kathleen.
Wonderful. I wanted to tell you, all three of you, you're a great team. We appreciate you so much, more than you can imagine. I'm a mother of 5 boys trying to raise them for this future generation of who knows what it looks like. And I'm just very hopeful for you, and I just want to encourage you. Amla, I'm praying for you that you will find the truth, and I'm so grateful that you are attending and listening. And Will, I am so happy that you have been baptized and you've acknowledged your faith, and that's just tremendous. And Taylor, keep doing a great job. I just appreciate you all so very much, and I just want to make sure that you know that. And I wanted to tell you to be strong and courageous. Be very strong and very courageous.
We definitely will, Kathleen. Thank you so much, Kathleen. And it looks like you got a basketball team in your family. You got 5 boys. You know, you start a little team. I don't think Montana has a team yet. You could start something out of that, which is very cool. All right, let's take Carrie from Idaho. Carrie, what's up?
Hi.
Hi.
How are you guys?
We're doing wonderful. You got a question today?
Well, yeah, a little bit of a question. So, it's my opinion that the ultimate Marxist goal of defunding the police is to actually federalize the police, because they're creating all this crisis by defunding the police and crime goes up. So what's going to be the solution? Big government steps in tweets in with the solution of federalizing the police.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you so much for the call, Carrie. Yeah.
You're not wrong. I don't think you're wrong. I would not be surprised. Whenever the left tries to point out a problem or an issue in our society, which let me go ahead and point out that police brutality is simply not a systemic issue in our nation. If anybody would look into the numbers on that, and maybe at some point we'll get into them, they would find that it is not a systemic problem in this nation. But when the left points out problems, their solution is the government can fix that. The government's going to take care of that for you. Just put your trust in daddy government, and then we will create a police force that is not only free completely of police brutality, but is servicing the needed communities.
Well, here's what you have when you federalize the police, and I definitely agree with you. I don't know if it'll happen so soon, but I can see that it might be happening in the future. Let's say a city like Los Angeles mandates masks, right? And they have mask mandates, and the police are organizing it, but then a place somewhere else near Los Angeles isn't mandating mask mandates. When you have a federal police force and they come on and say, well, it's mandated nationwide, then they're no longer under just that jurisdiction of LA County.
Mm-hmm.
They're under the jurisdiction of the entire country. So it's a scary thing to think about something like that happening, but I really appreciate your call, Carrie, and all you guys who've been calling. It's looking like we only have one more segment after this. These 3 hours flew by so fast. Usually 3 hours, I can't even stand it, but this time it's been a lot of fun with Amla. We got one more segment, so don't miss it when we get back, and make sure that you are going to PragerU.com, donating to help us keep our videos free, to help organizing young people. Make sure that people are seeing our videos and hearing our ideas because they're incredibly important. Thank you. Be right back.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
And then you want it to fit better. So one of the ways you could do it, if you would like to, is put a cloth mask over, which actually here and here and here, where you could get leakage in, is much better contained.
Are you a double masker, Dr. Fauci? It looked like you are.
Now, Alicia, I think probably has a good reason to reject her doctor's explanation that that's the guy that we should all listen to. Matt Taibbi, in this report, or his column that I saw at New York Post, said he writes, PolitiFact, which now basically exists to deflect criticism from the Biden administration, rated false the claim that Biden and Harris actually had reservations about the safety of the vaccines.
But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
Matt Taibbi says PolitiFact's excuse is that the then candidates, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, were raising questions not about the vaccines themselves, but about then President Donald Trump's rollout of the vaccines.
But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
PolitiFact said it's false that Kamala Harris had reservations about the vaccines. Matt Taibbi says, wait a minute, PolitiFact says it's false. What the hell does that mean? That it's okay to have reservations not just about the White House, but about the CDC, FDA, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Moderna, and every other institution involved with the vaccine effort if you don't like or trust the president?
But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
I mean, if you're going to censor yourself in deference to that power that's above you, that's telling you what you can and can't say, then you are the joke. You're not making jokes. You are the joke. Comedians, in our situation, what we look at is what we're doing. We're often accused, we're lately have been accused of punching down. We're punching back. We're not punching down. This is a situation where conservatives are literally on the ropes in the culture battle. Yeah. And they're defending themselves against this top-down attack, this top-down tyranny from progressive ideology.
Hey everybody, we're coming in for our last segment of the day. This is
So
kind
sad.
of bittersweet.
It's sad, man. It's sad.
It is sad. But we wanted to talk about something that we experience so often, and it's a big fear for people who message us and say, I want to enter the conservative movement, I want to speak out, but I'm so scared of the hate that I'm going to get. So, Will, what's your sage words of advice? How do you handle hate?
Wow. I thought you were going to start it off, so
no,
I had time to think. No. This is the last segment, we got to make this good. No, I think it's really important. I personally have gotten lots of hate, as I'm sure you guys can understand. Amla's gotten lots of hate, people on the left, and even people who claim to, be conservatives hate on me as well. So it's going to happen from people from all sides, and you can't impress everyone. That's something important. And one thing that I really do is when I get haters who are saying evil and horrible things, I ignore them. I know that is something that maybe not everyone has the ability to do because it's very hard to not just keep going on social media and checking what people are saying about you, but I ignore people who only want to do evil to me. If someone wants to hurt me or wants to say things that they know are going to get under my skin or that are going to try to destroy me, then I will ignore the things that they say. But people are too caught up with the opinions of people who they wouldn't take any advice from themselves.
Right.
People who are doing evil things to them. Why would you take these people's advice? Yes, there are people out there who want to give you valid criticism or want to talk to you about your ideas. That's totally fine. You should be able to talk to these people. But someone who just wants to hurt you, this is not someone who you should be taking advice from. So ignore the evil hate and then push forward to be a better person.
And remember that you have the ultimate shield. You have the ultimate armor, and that is the truth, and that is honesty. And so long as you have that, you have done right by yourself, you have done right by the world, you've done right by your community. It doesn't matter what other people tell you. It doesn't matter that people want to get in your face and tell you that your ideology is wrong. You know that you have the truth, and the truth really does shine through, even when there are people, very evil people, whether that's these bureaucrats and these big tech overlords and these corporations trying to hold it back. The truth does shine through, and there will be people out there trying to share it, and that's why PragerU is so special. We don't focus on the day-to-day politicians, the legislation, all the different drama that you hear in the news on CNN and MSNBC and ABC. We focus on the foundational values of what it means to be conservative, what it means to hold Judeo-Christian values in your day-to-day life, and what it means to love America. And so long as you are doing that, you are shielded.
100%. PragerU has completely changed my life. I know it's changed Amla's life.
Yes.
It's been the greatest force for good. And there is no other organization out there that is doing the work that PragerU is doing. There just isn't. There are other organizations doing great work. Don't want to say there isn't. But there's no organization that is doing what PragerU is doing on the scale that we are, changing minds, influencing people, getting people connected, and everything. It is such an amazing thing. So make sure you guys are going to PragerU.com. Make sure that you are following Amla and I on social media, as well as PragerU at the Will Witt, at the Amla Epinobi, and make sure that, Craig will probably be mad at me. Check out my book, How to Win Friends and Influence Enemies, as well, Will Witt's book, and I'm going to wrap it up.
We appreciate your support. It really means the world to us. I can't say that enough. So if you leave with anything, leave with that. We appreciate you.
Yes, PragerU.com. Donate. Thank you guys so much for listening to us, and hopefully we are back again. Support PragerU and everything we do. Bye, guys.
Bye.